So, UD has spoken, and they've said Cherargei is on his own. I've said that particular proposal by Cherargei, it is just his own. So if you got questions, then we should ask Cherargei to tell us what it means when he says that we should extend the presidential term limit to 7 years. They continue to say that the president, that is Dr. William Ruto, respects the rule of law and that they came into power to protect the constitution and empower it. And so there's no way they could fathom that the president is behind this energized move. Not the very first time we've seen it, the second time, to extend this presidential term limit. I mean, the first time we saw it was last year in November, just 2 months after the president got into power, when a FIFA member of parliament, Yakub, came in and said, well, extinguish presidential term limits. And this was his thinking, that if a president performs really good, then we should not be thinking about presidential term limits. So this morning we talk about that in respect to what UDA said. We're going to read that particular statement and dig deep into it on the back of the ongoing talks at the Bomas of Kenya. Also be looking at exactly where they are, and also political sentiments, or should we call them statements, from Raila Amolo Odinga. We'll be telling you exactly what that is and how that essentially opens a new talking point in as much as there's no succession politics are concerned. We're live at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. My name is Simba. Elijah Charles here. Get us online at Lookuptv. The hashtag is the Morning Drift. All right, let's get back then and look at the newspapers this morning. We're going to start with the Daily Nation. There's a new grading system in place for KCSE students. Now, this is what they're saying. The new grading system will be implemented from this year, and which is set to benefit over 5 million learners. The intention of this grading system is to make it easy for learners then to progress into TVET institutions. And they're saying that they're going to look at mathematics as a compulsory, and one language that the learners have passed, isn't it? So that essentially removes or reduces the subjects from 5, the compulsory subjects, to just 2. Yeah? And they're saying that this is bound to increase the number of students who are crossing over to TVET institutions in the country. That story has been covered to page 5. Yeah? So they're saying the number of compulsory subjects from 5 to 2, mathematics and one of the languages. All right? This means that candidates are likely to score better grades to qualify to join tertiary colleges. It's true. Because if you're not good in mathematics, yeah, you pass one language without any other subject that is supposed to pull up your grade, that means you're completely done and dusted. This assumption that reducing the subjects from 5 to 2 would help more students get better marks, it is not scientifically true. My opinion. What do you think? the more subjects you have, because you have 3, and if you, so the question of either or only comes in 2, isn't it? So it's either you pass or you fail, all right? Or if you get 2 or 3 subjects that you've passed really well, and if you fail 2, then your average would be up. But the Ministry of Education doesn't tend to think like that. Read that particular story on page 7. Page 5, there is the story of how UDA has now told Cherargei that he is on his own, and as presidential term limits are concerned. Page 6, there's a story of whether there's a split in Mount Kenya. The deputy president insists that Mount Kenya leaders are united. The suspect in a Maigomara case freed, with a particular story on page 3. It's a trending story, by the way, which you can also get on our website on www.lookuptv.co.ke. On pages 2, there is a story on how RUTO now has sent 100,000 community health promoters to counties. And on page 13, there is war on terror getting a boost as Kenya, US sign a pact, all right? On the back page, there is pen and bill team set up without AGs not illegal. Now, governors who wish to have audits done by another auditor must ask the Auditor General. The particular story covered on the back page of the Daily Nation. On the Standard this morning, some stories that are being covered right here. So there's a story, there's the bigger headline here on reading Uhuru's script. A year after taking the reins of power, the Kenya Kwanza government is implementing projects campaigned against, albeit with different names, including the BBI project that had been couched as bipartisan talks. A particular story covered on page 6 of the Standard. And those are one of the stories that we're going to talk about this morning. 1 year on, is it government that is reading from the same script? There's debt management. Kenya Kwanza honchos were all over the place running at the Uhuru government for borrowing. However, 1 year later, appetite for debt has grown. There's Huduma number versus, versus, it's a long morning, Maisha number. And there's the Prime Minister office, which is reading from the same script. And we're going to talk about it this morning on a big conversation. Stay away from loans with the interest, Muslims told. That particular story has been covered on page 14 on the Financial Standard. And it's a story here on pages 4 on our review of grading to see universities admit more. And farmers want state control of maize prices to end. That particular story covered on page 8. And Chelsea's EPL blues continue. That particular story covered on page 40. There's another story here that I've been seeing a lot of fans talk about how Arsenal has failed to recapture their glory last season. Guys, it's too early in the season. Please, let's stop. Yeah, please come back after 15 games. You know, this whole story about, oh, Man United is not going to go. I've never said Man United is not going to go anywhere. I've always said it's too early. If they correct the things that are happening in that club, they'll click. That's what I'm saying. But the only team that we should be talking about in terms of how badly the season is going for them is Chelsea. Arsenal is still unbeaten. Do not forget that. I mean, there are only 4 teams that are unbeaten in the league. They're Tottenham, Arsenal, Man City, and Tottenham. And Liverpool. So when we sit here and talk about, oh, Arsenal, you failed to beat Tottenham. Failed to beat Tottenham with who? Who played in that game? Arsenal, by the way, have 8 injuries right now in the first team squad. 8. And you're here talking about, oh, Arsenal, you guys are weak. How? You try play with 8 injuries. Ask Man United, with all the injuries they have, where are they? Let's talk about Chelsea. And it looks as if Chelsea, I just do not want to score. They've gone 13 matches without scoring a goal in 2023. Pochettino is a man on fire as well. And I will tell you what the problem is. You cannot trust an entire team on kids. And I will tell you that again. All right, let's move away from sport. There's not a sport show this morning. Just that Man United fans have been laughing just because of beating Burnley. A possession of 34%. Burnley had a possession of 66% overall. It's a shame. He scored one goal, one lucky goal, you would say. No, it was a good goal. Let me be a truth one. But Van Persie was better. We all agree. Once we come back, I'll be taking you straight to the newsroom. All right. Let's then look at exactly what is trending in our newsroom this morning. The Turkana County Assembly is now calling on the government to ensure the 32 Kenyan sentenced 20 years ago in prison are home. Speaking in a session of leadership at the county, leaders also called upon the government to ensure the rehabilitation of key infrastructure in the county in a bid to boost tourism.
This county has had issues of insecurity, extreme issues, very many issues. The latest and the most burning issues is the issues of Kenyans who have been court-martialed in the Republic of Uganda. And these are purely passports. The situation under which they were arrested is not very clear. They were duped. And suddenly they were rounded. It's our appeal as a community of Turkana to request the Senate to make some intervention on this matter so that we can secure release of these Kenyans who have been held on the other side of infrastructure. Our appeal as the county assembly or as the leadership of Turkana is to have the government find some funds to have this road from Lodwar to the lake fixed so that the tourism in this region be boosted. We wouldn't wish to have a situation where only the negative is known about, is read about Turkana County. We have moved away from that negative terrain.
You're aware that the primary role of the Senate is to protect devolution, the counties and their governments. And by extension, the county assemblies are partners of the Senate. They are brothers at the grassroots. Just like you said, your big brothers and big sisters are here, and certainly you need to feel their presence even when they've long left. I believe that will be so. We view county assemblies as partners. Others, you stifle the leadership freedom. You stifle their space to exercise their leadership, hence nab their growth. But again, those governors who feel like they will never want to give the county assembly that kind of autonomy for reasons better known to them. But for me, if you need to have effective oversight over your county government, you need that independence.
Climate change becomes a threat to human-wildlife conflict. Samburu County women take part in conservation of black rhinos to escape pastoralism dependency. However, conservation on the black rhino, which is on the verge of extinction, is having recorded a success of increasing the number of this rare species from 10 in 2015 to 22 currently.
In a joyful mood, Samburu women dressed in their appealing cultural beaded attires moved towards the venue where the sensitization of black rhino conservation is set to take place. They then joined the KWS officers in the calm environment where they are actively listening to the KWS speaker. The Samburu community has been actively engaging in conservation of the black rhino, whereas the community says their conservation efforts have empowered them over time as it creates employment to the local community as well as earning them an income. Conservation of black rhino has made Samburu women realize the importance of black rhino that was non-existent in the 1970s, and they are up to task in conjunction with the community to ensure no poachers invade the conservation.
Na wakati huu jamii iliweza kuona umuhimu wake. Umuhimu wa kwanza, tuliona tukileta wanyama watoto wetu watapata ajira ya kazi. Pia tutaweza kuinua maisha yetu kama jamii kwa sababu tutapata wazungu wale wataweza kuja.
Samburu Region KWS Warden Daniel Kirui, he says that poaching is no longer a major threat in the Samburu area as the community is always alert on protecting these rhinos.
Sahi changamoto ya ile uwindaji haramu tumeweza kuisimamisha. So ile changamoto kubwa ambaye tunazo kwa sasa ni mambo ya ubadilikaji wa tabia ya nchi ama climatic change. Sababu mambo ya kiangazi haiwezi affect jamii peke yake ama binadamu peke yake, ina affect also wanyama wa pori, na hiyo ndio inaleta ile human wildlife conflict kidogo inakuja juu, because wanyama wa pori na binadamu na pia mifugo wanang'ania ile maji kidogo inabaki, so hapo kidogo inakuanga na changamoto.
Ivy Wangulu, Lookuptv.
Renson Mulele Igonga was on Monday sworn in as Director of Public Prosecutions. The event was presided over by President William Ruto at State House Nairobi. Mulele takes over from Anodin Haji, who left the ODPP position after he was picked by Ruto as the new National Intelligence Service Director General.
I, Renson Mulele Igonga.
After being approved by the National Assembly for the position of the Director of Public Prosecutions, Renson Mulele was today morning sworn in as the new DPP.
Do solemnly affirm that I will well and truly serve the people and the Republic of Kenya in the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions.
After taking the oath of office, Mulele was called upon to ensure corruption is no longer the order of the day, with President Ruto calling upon the office of the ODPP to ensure that the fight against corruption is won.
As you begin your tenure, remember that you are not alone. You have a nation standing firmly behind you, supporting your every effort to ensure that the law is justly administered and that the rights of all are respected. May your tenure as the Director of Public Prosecution be marked by triumph of justice, and may you stand as an inspiring example of integrity and dedication to duty. The property of the people of Kenya, the resources of the people of Kenya are not abused, they are not wasted, they are not stolen, and through corruption, the people of Kenya don't lose. I am very clear in my mind as to where we want to go on this matter, and we will defeat corruption.
With high-profile cases against politicians dropped in the recent past, Mulele was urged by President Ruto to ensure that justice is served and everyone is answerable regardless of how powerful they are, while assuring the office of the ODPP of the executive's full support.
It is your duty as the head of the office of the Director of Public Prosecution to ensure that non-partisan, uniform, consistent, and high-quality prosecutorial actions are always the benchmark of your office. Without fear or favor, without different standards for big fish versus small fish, without avoiding actions against the so-called sacred cows, you have been mandated by Kenyans to ensure that justice reigns on all equally. You have the support of the executive, and the presence of all these leaders here is testimony, and of every state organ, of both tiers of government and all three arms of government.
As the judicial system in the country remains on the spot, President Ruto remains confident that the criminal justice system will work, with the Chief Justice Martha Koome noting that the judiciary will work hand in hand with the office of the ODPP in rooting out corruption.
I am very confident that the criminal justice system will work with you to make sure that we deliver to the people of Kenya that which they expect. The presence of so many others.
We stand ready to welcome you to the family of NCAJ and to assure you that we will collaborate as partners and work with you to deliver on your mandate. We believe in a shared vision of a just, efficient, and effective justice system, and one that serves our citizens with the fairness and timeliness that they deserve.
Ian Keitani, Lookuptv.
Political parties' liaison committee has called for an audit of the 2022 presidential election results, appearing before the National Dialogue Committee at the Bomas of Kenya Monday. PPLC said the audit would eliminate doubts about the results announced by IEBC.
On Monday, which saw more stakeholders increasingly presenting their grievances before the National Dialogue Committee on the ongoing bipartisan talks, it was the turn of the Political Parties Liaison Committee, which is now proposing amendments in the law against the financial allocation of the political parties. Discussion increasingly touching important issues including boundary adjustments in the country, the sensitive issue of the reform of the IEBC Commission, and the high cost of living menace among other issues as quoted in the 5-point agenda before the Dialogue Committee.
Our issue is very basic. We are saying discipline in political parties. Political parties are the ones who are bringing democracy within the republic. We are requesting that we have timelines. In presidential elections, we have 14 days. In MPs, we have 60 days, 6 months. So we are saying the law should be changed so that we have timelines within which to finalize these disputes. And then we change the law a bit so that we can have support and enhancement for political parties, so that we don't have, like so many political parties are complaining, their MPs, their MCAs have lined away from them.
Interreligious Council now wants the government to stop new development projects to address the chronic wound of the cost of living, calling on the politicians to consider the laws and rules of their respective political parties that ascended them to power while addressing the infidelity to party stalemate as raised.
Our plea, our submission here is that Kenyans must not be given these levies at the same time, because we all know the cost of living has gone so high, and we need to cushion Kenyans from...
Right. If suspended by your party, you're out, for sure. If the party sponsored you, and you're out. But then for the first time, why did your members go to the other way?
Representatives from the National Youth Council had an opportunity to defend their proposal to demand the passage of their bill into law to enable matters youth to be addressed, appealing to the committee to ensure employment and inclusion into the decision-making process in the national matters.
So what we need to be able to give the youth of this country is an opportunity to represent them, to represent themselves, and also to be able to be part of the people who are making decisions for this country.
Also, leaders from the Sabaot area, while defending their propositions before the committee, have signaled for talks around the creation of Mount Elgon County, which will be made up of 3 constituencies: Endebess, Sabaot, and Mount Elgon, located at the border of Bungoma and Trans Nzoia counties.
May this be the last time that this community is coming to present the same issue that relates to boundaries, that relates to being governed under one administration and feeling part and parcel of this nation.
Sisi kama watu wa Sabaot yetu ilikuwa ni kukuja tu kutoa maoni yetu kulingana na vile constitution inasema, na tukaeleza kwa hiyo legal framework, na tukaeleza kwa political framework na vile kuko sahihi.
Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei has said it will not be intimidated to drop the proposal he made in Parliament over the increment of a presidential term. Speaking when he addressed the media at the Parliament buildings, Cherargei said his proposal was meant for the interest of the peoples of Kenya. This comes as SUDA, or UDS, distances itself from the proposal.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that's what I wrote to the National Dialogue Committee.
The proposal by Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei to increase the presidential term limit has been met with criticism from different quarters, with the ruling party through its Secretary General Cleophas Malala distancing itself from the views of the senator. Through a statement, the party argues that the UDA party respects and upholds the senator's personal views, but particularly on the reference subject, those views do not reflect the perspectives of the UDA party or its party leader, His Excellency President William Ruto. The president solemnly swore to respect, uphold, and defend the Constitution, which is abundantly clear and categorical on the presidential term limit. Cherargei on Friday submitted a proposal to the National Dialogue Committee to propose the increase of the presidential term limit, arguing that the current term limit is not enough for the president to deliver on his promises.
I know there is this small matter of extension of presidential term limit. I have explained that in 5 years, this country is in campaign mode. 1 year is lost during that preceding an election because of campaign. Immediately after election, we lose 1 year through the litigation process and formation of cabinet, settling down of government. So in total, you lose 2 years in 5 years, which only reduces 3 years for government to work. I think we would be expecting the miracles that happened 2,000 years ago of Jesus Christ for somebody to transform the country within 3 years. And therefore, I'm proposing that let us move to 7 years so that we desist from putting the country into a continuous campaign mode.
The Nandi senator, responding to critics, called on the bipartisan team to respect all views submitted.
That is why I thought I should give the correct perspective of what I'm proposing, and I'm willing to follow through. What I'm urging the National Dialogue Committee is not to be swayed by collective emotional blackmail by individuals, not to hear each and every opinion. The beauty of this country and democracy is that we should respect each other. We should respect the opinion and the expression that we share as a country so that we move forward into the future of limitless opportunities.
The proposal has been vehemently opposed across political divide. Brian Amwai, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
President William Ruto has assured Nairobi community health promoters that they will not experience any delays in receiving their stipends. He spoke Monday at Uhuru Park in Nairobi, where he was flagging off the distribution of 100,000 kits to be used by community health promoters and household screening.
President William Ruto has flagged off 100,000 kits to be used by community health workers in the dream of realizing a successful universal health coverage in the counties. According to the Ministry of Health, the kits will be essential tools for household screening by the community health promoters.
This program, I am told by the Ministry of Health, has been in their books, has been in their plans for the last 17 years. But I am very proud that today we are actualizing the dream and the aspirations of many Kenyans who have always wanted health delivered at the household level.
Addressing CHPs at Uhuru Park in Nairobi County, Ruto has ascertained that their salary will be disbursed on time. For a long time, universal health coverage has been facing challenges to realize its actualization. However, the national government has promised to fulfill its agenda.
We are going to partner with them to make sure that our community health promoters have a stipend every month. And we are going to co-share a shilling for a shilling with our county governments so that these men and women, the good people who have volunteered their time, energy, and resources to make sure that they visit our homes, we are now going to reward them with a stipend.
Cabinet Secretary for Health, Susan Nahumicha, has revealed that training of the workers is complete, a health plan that is being succeeded in joint efforts with USAID.
This is a momentous occasion as we live up to the promise in the Kenya Kwanza plan. The flagging off of our community health promoters kit is the actualization of a cherished vision, a vision that resonates with the ideals of universal health coverage and community well-being. We will only achieve UHC through strengthening primary health care, afya mashinani, and empowering community health services, which we rightly call afya nyumbani.
Ruto says that community health promoters will play a vital role in decongesting hospitals in the county, noting that minor illnesses will be diagnosed and treated at a community level.
Every health promoter in Kenya, the 100,000 of them, each one of them will be equipped by the government of Kenya with a kit that they can use for making sure that they can access every household in Kenya. And we have split every community health promoter with 100 households in every part of the Republic of Kenya.
Additionally, the president has said that this can only be achieved by both national and county governments working together, explaining that both are expected to fund this plan. Governor Sakaja, speaking at the event, as well endorsed the president's remarks.
As governors, we are grateful for your partnership. We acknowledge devolution is not a competition. Devolution is a partnership between both levels of government. The national government is important, the county governments are important. A bird that is flying cannot ask which wing is important for it to fly, the left wing or the right wing. It needs both wings.
Ruga Ival, Lookuptv.
So, I want to ask you a question then, so that we get this conversation right. So, your mom tells you, I don't want money. It's an example I'm trying to give you, so you understand where we are with Cherargei and his proposal. So your mom tells you, I don't want money. I'm okay. I am completely fine. In fact, your mom tells you right in your face, I don't need your money. But then, you decide, no, my mom needs money. So I'm gonna keep on sending you that money, whether you like it or not. UDS told Cherargei, Bwana, that proposal is yours. We as a party, we don't want it, but we're going to talk about it. Please stop. The president will not like that. But you have Cherargei over the other side saying, no, Bwana, the president deserves an additional 2 years. It's 7 years. Yeah? So, who should tell him to stop? Is it the president or it is us who should tell him to stop? When we look at this situation, why does it become a conversation point? Because Cherargei has told this party, you are not going to intimidate me. I am going to push for 7 years as a presidential term limit. But then the party leaders are saying, no, we don't want that. You go ask Cherargei where's getting that from. So why can't Cherargei stop? That is the question. Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiag. Once we come back.
Hapa panajulikana kama Napetao. Hapa tumekuja na zaidi ya chakula 500 ili kuhakikisha wakazi hapa angalau wanapokea kitu cha kutia mdomoni. Unavyoangalia hali ya anga sehemu hii, jamani, kuna ukame. Wakati wowote ambapo wewe unacheza loto, 25% ya pesa ambazo unatumia unakuja kufanikisha shughuli kama hii.
Thank you for your help. Together, we are changing lives.
Infinity Industrial Park is one of the largest private industrial parks located along Eastern Bypass, Nairobi, which provides modern infrastructure for smooth operations for industries and business enterprises. Infinity Industrial Park offers world-class amenities and facilities with wide roads, a police station, a power substation, fire station, public transport stage, hospital, and shopping mall. In addition, Infinity Industrial Park also offers CCTV cameras, 24-hour private armed security patrol, sewer, water, fiber optic cable, and 3-phase power connection, added to public utility, canteen, and dining areas. Sail on the golden opportunity to invest in Infinity Industrial Park, fully serviced warehouses at a special price of 3,569 Kenyan shillings per square foot. For more inquiries, visit our website infinityindustrialpark.com.
Realize your home ownership dream by investing in Brookvale Tuala, a magnificent prime residential property located in Ongata Rongai. Brookvale Tuala by Safaricom Investment Cooperative overlooks the majestic Ngong Hills and lies only 24 kilometers from Nairobi CBD. The project boasts of well-serviced plots with a perimeter wall, graded roads and a borehole. 50 by 100 plots are going for 1.4 million shillings with a flexible payment plan of up to 6 months. To book your plot, call 0729 121212 today. Safaricom Investment Cooperative, the investment partner of choice.
So the story we're telling today is a story of passion in practice that grows into business.
We have partnered with the Youth Fund, talk to as many youth as possible and work with them, hold their hand.
It is an expose of captains who have decided to take on challenges in different sectors and industries within the country.
My mentors had also not started as CEOs. They grew up and they showed me how they grew in the organizations. So that's what motivated me to actually do international business. And it was a good experience.
As an individual, support in bridging the care gap, part of me also to offer a solution. I want to leave this world a better place than I found it.
This is the Captain's Arena. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage.
Praise the Lord and Bwana Yesu asifiwe sana. My name is Pastor Josiah. I'm from a ministry called Reconcilers World. God gives strength to the weary. I am, Jesus is speaking. He says, I am the door. Then he says, anyone who enters in through me will be saved. The Lord is my shepherd or shepherd. Then he says, I will always have everything I need. God desires to guide you. He's telling you that this day, don't just trust the Lord, but he's telling you, trust the Lord widely.
About conflicts that result as a difference in faith. And let's talk about it from this context right here in the country, but then move from within the country and talk about that particular topic from an African perspective. My production team sat down together and said, well, we'll have to make an introduction about this particular subject. But when we kept on going deeper and deeper to look at numbers and issues resulting from faith in conflict, it became a challenge for us to unearth those particular instances. It's a good thing that we're going to get into that particular conversation today. There are organizations that are essentially looking at achieving peace in the entire of Africa. But then they're saying, well, they say these conflicts and wars that we're seeing in Africa are just not caused by politics and the difference in political ideologies, which by the way is the main reason when you look at internal and external conflicts. They're saying that, well, there's another reason, difference in faith. So this morning, let's take a look at that then, and from a very interesting perspective, we're going to speak to an organization that is looking at that particular area. That is the Christian-Muslim relations in Africa. And we are happy then to be joined by that team leader for the program for Christian-Muslim relations in Africa, Ms. Joy Wandabwa. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you.
Happy to have you around.
Good to be here.
Let's begin like this.
Sure.
When you tell people that indeed some of the conflicts that we experience within the country and Africa in general, that some of those reasons might be a difference in faith. Some people look at you and say, you're telling the truth? How bad is it?
Well, it's happening across Africa.
Yeah.
It has happened here in Kenya, and it is something to look at and see how it can be addressed.
Yes.
Religion can indeed be a cause of conflict, and it's not a story, it's lived. In Africa, we have seen it across different countries. Look at the issue of Nigeria, Boko Haram coming in to implicate religion.
Yes.
Sudan, back in the day, it was religious conflict.
Yes.
Look at even Israel. So what happens when religion becomes implicated in conflict?
That is isn't it?
So religion is not only a source of conflict, that's what Propur believes in, but it's also a source of peace. So our mission here is how can we, change that conversation, because it's happening. Here in East Africa, you look at the issue of Al-Shabaab, it implicates religion. It's youth who are being, implicated or recruited by extremist groups. So violent extremism has become a large factor over the years, and the last 10 years have become more and more and more grievous. Back here in Africa and even around the world, religion has been implicated.
It's a good thing that you're talking about Propur.
Yes.
Am I getting it right?
Sure.
Good.
Yeah.
Could you then therefore do a proper introduction then of Propur, just before we get to see what you're trying to achieve and how you are technically achieving it then?
So, Program for Christian-Muslim Relations in Africa, Propur. It is a Pan-African Christian organization, founded in 1959. And so we have been doing this work over the last 60 plus years, transversing across Africa, bringing religious leaders, mainly focusing on religious leaders, on how they can bring peace to the world. And so we have different programs, mainly focusing on religious peace building, capacity building, youth, women, and peace issues. So our stakeholders or our constituencies look at how they can bridge peace at the community level. And why religious leaders? Because Propur as an organization is a Christian organization, as I said, stretching a hand of friendship to our Muslim brothers and sisters. And why so? Because Christians and Muslims are the two main dominant religions in Africa. If you look at most countries, there's always this conversation of are Christians more or are Muslims more? We have North Africa where we have dominant Islam, but we also have countries like where Kenya is and others who also have, claim that we have more Christians. And so that divide, when our forefathers sat back in 1960s, when we were trying to have, Africa was becoming independent. And so there was this call of why can't we have an organization that can see how these two communities, we are both Abrahamic religions, Islam and Christianity. We come from the same father. It's only that we have religious differences. But Propur says, in spite of our religious faiths, can we sit together and work together? How do we bring that into play? We bring that into play by making sure that people, especially religious leaders, church leaders, women and youth, who are key in many of the issues around the continent, understand what we call Christian-Muslim relations. And we focus on the word relations. You cannot have dialogue before you have relations. And so you have to begin with these relations at the community level to see that the people at the grassroots, which is our communities, and when we talk about grassroots, it's the communities that we live in, it's the villages, it's the townships. So how can we make sure that people tolerate one another, especially on what is happening around us, where you can see that there's a lot of stigma, there's a lot of stereotype, there's a lot of issues when it comes to religion. So that's what Propur has been doing across 22 African countries in Africa. We are headquartered here in Nairobi. And just like you said, people ask, is it really true that Christians and Muslims can be at peace one day?
That's it. That's what I wanted to ask you.
And is there conflict?
That's what I wanted to ask you.
Sure.
Even when you talk about Christians and Muslims, I mean, they're two distinct religions in practice. And so when you're talking about the relations, I mean, Mr. Dabo, where do you start from?
Sorry?
Where do you start from
Where do we start
to look at these relations?
Well, we are not that different because, as I said, we are Christians and we have Muslims. So Propur believes that everybody has something to bring on the table. And it's not so difficult to start off because both Islam and Christianity are Abrahamic religions. So we have a lot in common. The only thing is that if you look at the Quran and you look at the Bible, there are common things there. All these religions talk about peace, everything, promoting peace. Islam talks about Assalamu alaikum, and that's how they greet, peace be with you. And we say Christ is a Prince of Peace. So you can see that we have common factors, but as human beings, and just as you started before talking about politics, economics, social, and all this, when all these things come into play, then you can start seeing that, you know, we begin to have division points. We may not necessarily agree on things, but Propur is saying, let's promote peaceful coexistence. Be your brother's keeper. Watch out for your neighbor. We talk about good neighborliness. I am a Christian. I can talk to you about my Christian faith in a constructive way, not in the other way around. You are Muslim, you can talk to me about your faith. That is what Propur does. Respect for one another, mutual understanding. And today, the world has changed. Even here in Kenya, my neighbor is a Muslim. There's a mosque next to me, there's a church next to me, there's all these things. But then again, there's the issue of intra, what we call intra and inter. Christians, we have a lot of churches. For example, we have denominations, we have Anglicans, we have Catholics, we have all this. Sometimes, or many times, we don't agree on that faith. So we also have our own internal conflicts, isn't it? As
Christians, isn't it?
As Christians.
I was actually almost going to get there as well.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah.
And as Muslims, that's when we talk about inter. It's my faith and the other faith.
Okay.
You understand? So what do we say? As Christians or as Muslims, we need to put our house in order. We need to be at peace with one another. So sometimes you might be saying, Christianity, Muslim, no. But then why can't you start with yourself? Peace begins with me before I reach out and start accusing that other religion. Because many times it's like my religion, even when we talk about from the intra point of view, Catholics may feel like we are the superior. You know, we come from the Pope and Anglicans, and then today you have a lot of evangelical churches. You know, this was not there. The world is changing. We're becoming many things dynamic. How do we live with one another? Because this religious conflict must not necessarily be caused between Christians and Muslims and Judaism and Buddhism. It can also start at our angle. Look at what happened in Mombasa with the Kilifi, the Shakahola. You know, this was an internal, you know, it was now Christianity being put on the spot, isn't it? And you can see the conflict and the strife that has brought. People have died, you know, families have been disintegrated and all that. So what can we do? And what is Propur and other faith-based organizations or interfaith organizations doing about it?
Yes. Looking at it from outside, the bigger challenge is that there are people who identify as their religion. You see that? Like, I am a Muslim, so my individuality is of Muslim faith. And the people who strongly identify as Christians, so their individuality, their beliefs, their personal self is essentially a Christian. Does it become difficult to remove individuality from a religion? That this is something that you believe in. It's not you. that this is what you believe in, it's your religion. But there's a separate piece of you that is just the individual without the religion. How have you been able to achieve that? Because that is where conflicts begin, where you find people saying, oh, this Muslims, or this Christians, or this church, or that church. Then all of a sudden now we even have issues of radicalization right within the religion.
Yeah.
Yes.
So from where we sit as Propur,
yes.
One of the things that we first of all do as an organization is we have invested in human resource so that our personnel, our pastors, and when I talk about human resource, I'm not talking about a HR department full of all these other people. It is, you know, a place where you have religious leaders, pastors, theologians, and all that. And so we ensure that they get training, what we call Islam and Christian-Muslim relations, so that they can begin to understand what that is before going out.
I say that.
You need to be informed.
Understand that religion.
Understand the other religion just as much as you understand your religion. Because if you don't have an understanding of the other religion, number one, you'll make those, you know, accusations and all that. So the people that can be able to do this for us are the church leaders from the Christian side. And because Propur is a Christian organization, we don't attempt to train Muslims about their religion. But you've said something very important, the question of identity. Because all the time, the first thing is identity. We identify ourselves with religion. And Africa is a religious and a very cultural continent. We cannot part from that. But then we keep using this analogy. For example, when you talk about religion, you are an African and you move out of Africa and you're going to the US. You land at an airport. What identity are you given? If you land in Heathrow, London, anywhere, how will they identify you? It will be this African. Before they go to know that what you're a Christian, you're a Muslim, unless maybe it's the attire, but the first thing that identifies you is your Africanness. So it becomes very difficult when you're talking about how do I separate my identity, my individual identity. And this is what we are trying to do as Propur, so that people look beyond themselves. You look at yourselves as all of us. So my first identity is, my name is Joy. I'm an African, I am a Kenyan, I'm a Christian. So when you start understanding that division, then you'll know. And we make it in such a way that you are sensitive. You need to be sensitive to the other.
Yes.
If you are not sensitive, you don't have that sensitivity, you'll always, you know, not know how to relate. So if you're cautious about the other, and you want to communicate with the other person, how do I address you? From now we are having this discussion, and yes, we bring Christians and Muslims together. But as an organization, what we try to tell Christians is also be aware. You know, how do I relate? If I am here, for example, as Propur, we have meetings and conversations and workshops where we bring Christians and Muslims together. And as a Christian organization, we say prayer. And so we allow a Christian to open with prayer, a Muslim to open with prayer, and the other way around when we are closing. So you see, you start having that tolerance, that mutual respect. It doesn't have to be like I'm questioning. You know, like Muslims will pray in Arabic, for example. You may not understand, but you have faith, isn't it, in God?
Whatever it is that they're praying is essentially for the better, isn't it?
Exactly. So the relationship building is very key for us, and the understanding of one another.
Here's where the challenge begins, Joy, and you will tell us exactly where there's a challenge that you face. That there's this question of true religion, that people follow a particular religion because they believe that they've been taught, they've been raised knowing that this is the true religion, where the practices of the other faiths are considered not okay. That is not religion. I'll give you an example.
Sure.
I am a Christian.
Yeah.
There are things that have been taught to follow as a Seventh-day Adventist.
Yes.
And I do know now that myself, maybe I should be a member of Procmura, so that I also get educated, that there are things that are right, that our religion is true. There are books that have been written to defend the religion, saying that this is the right religion, not the rest of them. How is that a challenge? Do you meet this challenge that what you have to now do is to re-educate that there's no true religion, it's your religion. Believe it.
Yeah. We meet that challenge all the time, and we have been meeting it over the last 60 years with different groups. And also, as a result of that, one of our key programs, again, apart from capacity building for religious leaders, is we have a program called Freedom of Religion or Belief, FOB. And when you talk about my religion being that the religion, because you want to convince me about either my religion, my Bible tells me this, my Quran tells me this. But the argument is here. None of those, both books, promote killing, promote conflict. None of them. It is human beings who have gone round, and we call this misinterpretation of religious texts, for example. Because none of the religions, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, promotes conflict.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. None of those two.
Regardless of the interpretation that is getting popularized outside here.
Exactly. And that is why religious leaders or faith-based actors have a lot of work. And for us, that's why, again, we are targeting those religious leaders, those youth leaders in universities, those women who are the grassroots, to understand what does it mean to be at peace. And maybe we are going to come to that, because this is indeed the Peace Week.
Yes.
This is the week where we say as individuals, what have we been doing to promote peace as opposed to, bring war and injustices? How can we use ourselves as religious? And a religious leader may not necessarily be that pastor. I am not a theologian. But having worked with a religious organization, I begin to understand the importance of peace building. There are people who are doing peace work, but they are not necessarily religious leaders. United Nations, peacekeeping forces and all that, the approaches are just different.
Yes.
But then how do we live at peace with one another? Because that is the focus of Procmura and other organizations, promoting peace, getting communities to understand. Just like you're saying, if we are not careful, today, again, we are here in studio, and the media has been used as well to, promote conflict. How do we report it? How sensitive are we on what we are talking about? So we have different levels, and we are different actors in the field. But then we need to do a lot of advocacy. We need to do a lot of teaching. We need to create a culture. If you talk about Islam again, we say, or most of us look at Islam as a culture of peace. It's a way of life. That is what they say. Because you wake up and all the time you are at peace, greeting, looking out for one another. That's a culture of peace.
Yeah.
So the question then becomes, how do we promote that culture? How do we live it? Because the more we promote that culture, the more we are going to, even if not eradicate, reduce the levels of conflicts in our communities.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Since we have 5 minutes for this conversation, I just want us to go through a couple of these issues as quick as we can.
Yeah.
This week is International Peace Week, isn't it?
Yes.
In respect to faith, Joy, what can I do to contribute to this week in respect to what you're trying to achieve at Procmura?
You can begin with yourself by saying, I'm an ambassador of peace. Everybody can be an ambassador of peace.
Yes.
You can take small actions, even at the family level. Maybe you have been in conflict you know, you can try to reach out. And why we say that peace begins with you is that many times we feel that if I am the one who is aggrieved, I should not, you know, the person who is at war with me should be the one looking for me. Why not reverse that? Why not reach out to your neighbor? Why not care and understand how are they going on? That's an action for peace. Why not, you have a phone, why can't you send peace messages to your family, your friends? Why can't you talk to your child at the family level that when you go to school, don't be violent, don't get into fights, don't do this and that. So we play it at very different levels. I could have a t-shirt, I stand for peace. Someone else may be wondering, what does it mean to be a peace ambassador? So we can teach one another at a very basic way, and that's what the International Peace Week calls us to do. When the bell went off last week at the assembly, it was a call for peace. It was a call for action for those faith actors, for peace actors in different constituencies to showcase, because peace is showcased by the different practices that we practice. How do I, you know, show peace to my neighbor? As an institution, as an organization, as a family person, as a teacher, you know, many people don't even know about the Peace Week. So how do you, as even the media you are talking about, promote this? Because at that grassroots level in our villages, I want to be so sure that even growing up, I myself did not know, but then as the UN and other, you know, global bodies started recognizing this, they made them, you know, public advocacy holidays or something like that, so that they know that it's not only the UN that can be able to keep peace everywhere. They need our support. They need us to rally with them. They need us to run with them. They need us to create awareness. They need the communities, the youth especially, who are the leaders of tomorrow, to be on the forefront so that they can promote peace.
Pretty much. Take a minute. These are two questions that my producer tells me that my director tells me that we gotta get out of time, get out of the studio. Sorry. There's an event that is supposed to mark the International Peace Week. How can I be a part and parcel of it? And for those who want to support Procmura, how can they log on and support you? 1 minute.
So we are having an Amani Peace Gala, which means peace, at Procmura in Westlands, where we are going to be bringing different peace actors in the country, both continental, national and all that, to come and celebrate the Peace Week with us by showcasing what they have been doing. So the general public can join in. We have a Twitter, Facebook and all that, so that you can also be an active peace ambassador. You can also join and become a Procmura member, so that in your own individual way, you can be able to support radio campaigns, peace campaigns, and all that is happening during this colorful week. So I invite everyone, peace actors who are out there, come and join others so that you can also be able to say what you have been doing across the country and the continent.
The biggest takeaway from Joy, if you didn't get anything that she was saying this morning, is that this week, being an International Peace Week, what are you doing on a personal level to also be part and parcel of this conversation of achieving peace in the country and in Africa as a whole? Guess what? We didn't have more time. We've just scratched the tip of the iceberg. But guess what? Maybe we're going to be part and parcel of that International Week celebration there. We'll have better and bigger conversations and also get to ask more questions to Procmura on exactly what they've been able to achieve and observe within the country and in the rest of the region, in as much as achieving peace within faiths is concerned. Take online at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. I am at Kia Gesimba. Any other question that you may have, even participating on that International Week, you don't know what to do, talk to us. We will talk right back to them. Good morning. Tomorrow is another good day for another session. Joy, thank you very much for coming. Anytime. All right.
Thank you.
Are you an SME looking for a media partner? Look no more, as Lookuptv got you covered for all your visibility and marketing needs. We at Lookuptv understand your business needs and want to work with you on your marketing journey, giving you solutions that will take you to the next level. Call us today on 0707 572 358 or send an email to sales@lookuptv.co.ke and kickstart this amazing journey. Welcome to Lookuptv, your official SME media partner.
Are you looking for experts in waterproofing systems, concrete admixtures, flooring systems, refurbishment solutions, roofing, sealing and bonding, and building finishing systems? Look no more, as Sika Kenya got you covered. With over 113 years of experience, we offer our customers a comprehensive one-stop shop experience and the best technical support. Our products are available in all leading hardware stores and building merchants across the country. Call us today on 0711 140 232 or 0786 140 834 or email us on sales@ke.sika.com. Sika Kenya, building trust.
All right. Welcome back to the Morning Drift. My name is Simba. Elijah Charles here. There's just a lot that we have to go through for the next couple minutes as we look at what is really going on in the political economy in the country. One story is grabbing the headlines as we speak right now. And this morning, we want to look at exactly two things that are ongoing in the Kenya Kwanza government. One, we're going to look at exactly what Cherargei means when he says the UDA party will not intimidate him from stopping them to push his agenda to extend the presidential term limit to 7 years. Again, this morning, what does it mean when Raila Amolo Odinga says that his time is not up? And number three, which script is the Kenya Kwanza government reading from? Critics are saying that everything that the Kenya Kwanza government is doing was essentially a script of the Jubilee government. Before I introduce the guest who's joining us this morning, let's take a look at this story, and we're going to start from Cherargei this morning. And just before we jump into that story, there is the Daily Nation this morning that has essentially then continued to highlight that particular story, because this morning they looked at the reaction of the UDA party, where they essentially said that Cherargei is on his own. All right, that's the bigger story that they got to get into this morning. And yesterday also, the Standard also ran the same story, where they were talking about what they think Cherargei then means when he says, let's extend the presidential term limit to 7 years. Good. This morning, we start with the story of Cherargei and his UDA party. Once we come back, I introduce the guest who's joining us, and then we get into the conversation.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that's what I wrote to the National Dialogue Committee.
The proposal by Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei to increase the presidential term limit has been met with criticism from different quarters, with the ruling party through its Secretary General Cleophas Malala distancing itself from the views of the senator. Through a statement, the party argues that the UDA party respects and upholds the senator's personal views, but particularly on the reference subject, those views do not reflect the perspectives of the UDA party or its party leader, His Excellency President William Ruto. The president solemnly swore to respect, uphold and defend the constitution, which is abundantly clear and categorical on the presidential term limit. Cherargei on Friday submitted a proposal to the National Dialogue Committee to propose the increase of the presidential term limit, arguing that the current term limit is not enough for the president to deliver on his promises.
I know there is this small matter of extension of presidential term limit. I have explained that in 5 years, This country is in campaign mode. 1 year is lost during that preceding an election because of campaign. Immediately after election, we lose 1 year through the litigation process and formation of cabinet, settling down of government. So in total, you lose 2 years in 5 years, which only reduces 3 years for government to work. I think we would be expecting the miracles that happened 2,000 years ago of Jesus Christ for somebody to transform the country within 3 years. And therefore, I'm proposing that let us move to 7 years so that we desist from putting the country into a continuous campaign mode.
The Nandi senator, responding to critics, called on the bipartisan team to respect all views submitted.
That is why I thought I should give the correct perspective of what I'm proposing, and I'm willing to follow through. What I'm urging the National Dialogue Committee is not to be swayed by collective emotional blackmail by individuals, not to hear each and every opinion. The beauty of this country and democracy is that we should respect each other. We should respect the opinion and the expression that we share as a country so that we move forward into the future of limitless opportunities.
The proposal has been vehemently opposed across political divide. Brian Amwai, Lookuptv, Nairobi.
So it's not just a proposal that the UDA party supports. And if you read that particular statement from the UDA party, it is almost similar to what we saw in November 2022, that is on November 11th, when they were forced to again defend the position of the party leader in as regards term limits. If you do remember, FIFA Member of Parliament, Yakub, also came out and said, well, it doesn't see why we need to have presidential term limits for presidents who perform exemplary. Good. Yesterday, we questioned why the UDA party was not essentially speaking. They came out speaking, but then Cherargei again comes in and says it's a small matter of a presidential term limit. Goes on to explain his position, that he shall not be intimidated into pushing the dialogue committee to discuss that. Joining us this morning is Mr. Wanguyu John. How are you doing, sir?
I'm fine, thank you, Simba. Good morning, everyone.
Let me begin from there. It's confusing. We give this example this morning. You want to give somebody a present. The person tells you, I do not want that present. But then you go right ahead and say that I am not going to be intimidated by you. I am going to make sure that the person who gives presents gives you that present, whether you like it or not. Because I believe, I myself, personally, in this house where we both live, I believe you deserve that present.
Or maybe perhaps suspend him or throw him out of UDA for advocating stuff that is that is against official position of the UDA party.
But it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
Everybody, I mean, he's just said that he's got the right and the freedom to push whatever opinion that he has, which is right in a sense, because we are all guaranteed, again going back to chapter 4 of the Constitution, Bill of Rights, freedom of thought and opinions as well. So you cannot control him or constrict him. He has a right to his opinion and suggestion, like everybody else. But this is interesting stuff, because it goes back to something we talked about a while back, and I told you, from the way these things are going, always listen to the deputy president. If you want to know the position of government,
yes,
listen to the deputy president keenly. I know we are fond of dismissing him offhand, that sometimes he says things that probably he doesn't understand. But the truth of the matter is, the bipartisan talks were doomed or have been structured to fail. And the reason I'm saying that is because of exactly what is going on with Cherargei today. You've talked about Fafi MP. Fafi MP makes an even bolder proposal, which is to remove term limits, one, and then put a cap on the retirement age of the president at 75. Very interesting stuff. Yes,
it's
exactly.
Really interesting.
So now the question becomes, are we willing as Kenyans to even have that conversation? Because people are going for the jugular for Cherargei, but Fafi MP has proposed that we remove term limits and put the cap at 75 years of age. Take time to digest that. So you can imagine that is a no-no. I mean, as Kenyans, we've said clearly from the beginning that we want term limits. We put it in the constitution for obvious reasons. That you get for the first term, and then a second one if you perform well. Yes. Of course, that is a decision of the electorate. But we're always going to end up here. I remember us having a conversation a few weeks ago, and I told you that the way these talks are going, this is basically a rope that has been handed to the opposition to hang themselves. I hope now you can start seeing what's going on.
Still haven't, John. You really have to prove it.
Yes. Yeah. So this is one of the suggestions. And remember, Cherargei has every right to propose whatever he's saying. Remember, at the beginning of the talks, or when there was that push and pull between the protagonists, both the Azimio on the one hand and Kenya Kwanza on the other, there was a conversation around how do we structure these talks so that we can, you see, when you have an endless agenda, you end up with this unwieldy thing that becomes difficult for anybody to control. So remember, Kenya Kwanza came with 5 agendas that they wanted to be looked at, and I think the same with Azimio. But Azimio went further and said, why not allow anybody and everybody to bring their proposal? We allow Kenyans to make proposals as to what they desire or would like to see change. Yes. So that in itself opened up this situation that we are in now, that we are going to get all sorts of wild proposals and suggestions that will actually take us away from what was initially envisaged. Because at the moment, think about it this way, we are now consumed by that proposal by Cherargei. Yes. We'll move on to Fafi MPs. What's his name, Salah? Yakub. Yes. We'll move on to Yakub next. And then there's other stuff that we haven't or has not been highlighted by you guys in the media. And I'm very, very sure in the next few days you're going to highlight something even more strange or more audacious in terms of what people are proposing. Yes. So how do you handle it? Then you go back to what are the substantive issues that will eventually take us to a referendum. Yes? And then we end up with the BBI or reggae season 2.0. Are Kenyans ready for that? Of course not. And then we end up with empty talks. And that is what I've been saying all along, that these talks, and of course the Deputy President has been saying that, that these talks will end up nowhere. Because at the moment, people are now starting to realize, actually, people are coming up with all sorts of ideas and proposals that are going to be unworkable. And then, remember, these are suggestions that will have an impact on the governance system and, of course, the Constitution, and therefore end up in a referendum. Because the moment you talk about the presidential term limit, which is in the Constitution, you're saying you're going to change it. That's a referendum issue. What Yakub is proposing will end up as a referendum issue. The embedment of the CDF and all those funds, that's a proposal that will end up in a referendum. The creation of the opposition of the official leader of the opposition, the prime cabinet secretary, and so on and so forth. All those issues will end up in a referendum. And then we go back to BBI. The issues that have been comprehensively legislated or litigated at all levels, from the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and then the Supreme Court. And it's the same issues. So can you, for example, introduce a referendum that is basically an omnibus, which is the idea that can you change all these different clauses in one referendum? That is one. Number two, given the problems that we are in economically, can we afford a referendum? And then number three, having just come out of an election and the electioneering and all that kind of stuff, are we ready for more noise? Are we, as Kenyans? Of course not. So that's why I'm saying that these talks will end nowhere.
No, John, now that you've explained it, I've started to see what you meant by this is just the government offering the opposition a rope to hang on. And I want to ask you this question, the very important question that came to the studio yesterday, that we were given a platform, the opposition was given a platform which looked really very sweet. Oh, let's go talk about all the issues that you have. Good. Oh, you want to talk about the audit of the 2022 general elections? Let's go talk about it. You want to talk about inclusivity in government? Let's go talk about it in whatever version they're going to talk about it from. Something did not happen. Yes, we went to the Senate House and said, well, and the National House, and said, whatever those gentlemen and ladies at the Bomas of Kenya talk about, we're going to anchor that within law. Good, we passed it very fast. And that passed without any other problem. All right, let's go back to the talks then. What did not happen, John, was that we did not ring-fence the talks by saying, you see these 9 issues that have been raised by both sides. These are the only issues that we're going to talk about, and these are the only issues that we are going to invite proposals upon. Number 1. No, they did not do that, John. All of a sudden, we're sitting here, John, hearing that the proposals are coming in. One for Cherargei, others saying let's divide counties and subdivide Kiambu County into more counties as well. And then guess what? You have 60 days to deliberate on all these issues. Was that open-ended approach of these talks just showing you that indeed somebody somewhere knew very well that this was neither here nor there?
Exactly. Actually, you've raised that point of creating more counties.
Yes.
That's another hot potato issue. How are we going to do it? And remember, again, some of these issues are completely under the purview of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. And we know that as it is today, they don't have a commission. So they can largely do very, very little in terms of all those issues that are under the mandate of the IUBC.
Yes.
So you end up with this situation, or you end up in this place where, how do we then proceed? Because at the end of the day, the moment you fail to do what you're saying to ring fence the conversation and it becomes open-ended, you end up with this unwieldy thing. Because remember, the Constitution, again, Chapter 4, guarantees all of us freedom of thought, freedom of opinion, and so on and so forth. So the moment you say these talks, let every Kenyan, every Tom, Dick, and Harry bring their proposal to the table, then how do you manage these things? How do you sieve them? How do you disaggregate them? And then how does that conversation move from that disaggregation? Because there's so many things that people would want to see, one, that are genuine. And then number 2, don't forget that there are busybodies out there. That's the reality of life. People will come to the table with all manner of proposals just to appear busy, to appear intelligent, to appear like they're doing something. So that is exactly the situation that these talks are headed towards.
Yes.
That we're going to end up with a situation where it will be very, very difficult for us to discern or to disaggregate these issues, one, and then how do we frame them going forward? What do we do? Because now, all of a sudden, you notice, given what Cherargei has said, the real big issue of cost of living is off the table somehow. Yes? The audit of the IEBC, of the elections, I saw the co-chair of that bipartisan talks, I think, what's his name, the Kikuyu MP.
Yeah.
They considered and said yesterday, not yesterday, I think on Friday last week.
Yes.
They said they were willing to allow for the audit of the servers. Yes. So now, you end up in this situation where I told you, I said previously that from our jurisprudence and from what the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court have determined over the years, and of course the minor KI case, Form 34A is the arbiter, is the alpha and omega of all elections. Yes, whatever happens at the polling station is final. So, of these Form 34As, in the conversation around the audit of the results, nobody has impeached, no one has impeached any of the Form 34As.
Yes.
So, Ishungo made the concession that we are going to allow for the audit. The hope is that once we have the commission in place, we're going to allow for the audit. So it will simply take us back to the Form 34As. But we know in the post-general election conversations, especially from the Azimio side, they actually themselves confessed that we did not have agents in some of the places, or in most of the places. So in theory, they don't even have the Form 34As. So how are you going to impeach something that you don't have? And you can sort of see what is happening. That basically we will end up with this situation where, unfortunately,
yes,
one of the protagonists will seem to be chasing their own tail.
That's it.
Without any progress.
Here's a question that we should be asking.
Yes.
That indeed somebody somewhere advising the government is quite smart, knowing very well that what we need to do is pull this time and then essentially get into some conundrum of sorts. Here's a question. When we're looking at the entrenchment of the office of the cabinet secretary that has gone to a referendum, when we go to entrenchment of CDF Kitty that has gone to a referendum, the opposition office, it's a new question, has gone to a referendum. All majority of these issues, other than probably reconstitution of IEBC, is the only one that is not going to go back to referendum. And also the audit of the 2022 general elections. But the rest of them, which are key issues that the opposition wants to talk about, in one way or another, end at the referendum. And somebody knows very well that despite what we talk about here, despite what we agree on these particular issues, we will say, yes, okay, let's move like this, but then you see we've got to go back to a referendum. And it's neither here nor there. I mean, there's so many issues that are involved in getting to a referendum. Do we have the money for that? Do we have the time for that? What time is that referendum going to happen? Might it happen maybe 1 year to the general election? Those are the things that, again, that the government has to decide by themselves. Is somebody somewhere knowing very well, John, the city somewhere knowing very well, hapa kuna pressure. Tuongee, tumalize, tuende referendum. Referendum ikikuja, we are only people know when that is going to happen. By then, we would have put this time and would have achieved whatever it is that we want.
And we'll end up with the same conversation we had under BBI. Remember, one of the things that worked against Azimio and the former president was BBI. Yes. The fact that they went around pushing for this idea of changing the constitution to allow for all these things that were being proposed, and it's the same situation. Then remember, the president and his team, it was very, very clear that he was against the BBI. But a majority of Kenyans were against it, and that is why there was massive jubilation across the country when the Supreme Court put that matter to rest and said all those things they said that made BBI fail. And this is the same situation. You end up with a situation where, unfortunately, somehow it is the opposition that will be tasked with the task of going out to sell these proposals. Because the president has already come out clearly, initially saying we are not going to create positions for Adosi and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Yes? So what does it mean for the opposition? And remember, for the opposition, for them, again, going back to substantive issues, fluid issues, issues that are going to be with us for a long time, then the question becomes, who is going to do the marketing? Assuming we get to that point, but I don't see it happening. I see the talks collapsing somewhere down the line. But imagine a situation where we end up with a referendum. Who's going to be doing the marketing? Who's going to be marshalling the troops to vote yes or to vote no? Are we going to end up with a situation where the president has been very, very vocal and very, very clear, we need a strong opposition? Are we going to end up with a situation where now the opposition and the president, again like BBI, on the same side pushing for a referendum? Yes. And you can sort of start to see the complications that actually support the idea that this is basically a wild goose chase.
That's it.
Yes.
Or John, as you're saying, that the president then would want support to achieve whatever he wants to achieve from the opposition, isn't it? Because that is the topics that you're looking at it.
Yes, he's desirous of that.
Yes.
But remember we have the history of BBI and what happened, and the opposition ganging up with the sitting president.
Yes.
And then, of course, we know how it ended. And this is the same situation we are facing. Because if we end up with a situation where they come up with a draft proposal for a referendum, then it means the government and the opposition have to gang up to support that bill. BBI 2 loading. So would that open up a situation where we would want somebody else to rise up against the government and the opposition? Because again, you end up with the opposition and the government on the same side pushing for
the same agenda.
Some agenda.
That's it, because all these conversations are going to end up in a referendum. You want this, okay. You want this, fine. Then let's go support the referendum, isn't it?
Exactly.
So who's going to say no in this referendum? Because in a referendum, you have to get both sides, isn't it?
Yes. You have to have those who support the proposals, and you have people who will be against those proposals.
And then what we talking?
BBI
2.0. Why are we talking at the Bomas of Kenya then, John?
Two things. Thing one is to manage the country and manage everybody.
Was that?
Yes. And then number two. Remember, these people are sitting and they're getting all their allowances and so on and so forth. I remember there's some people that we like to dismiss them.
Yes.
As Kenyans, and when
John,
they speak,
I want you to hold your thought, because I really want us to look at it in the second version as well, because whatever it is that we're talking about here is essentially what introduces the next conversation once we come from this break. Now, the critics who've looked at President Ruto's government, they've already said, look here, everything that we're seeing in this government is essentially what has been proposed or done before. That since he got in office, all the projects, all the government agenda, development agenda has been just what has been borrowed from the previous government. That they haven't seen something new that is going to be a Kenya Kwanza government agenda 1 year down the line. That plus other lobby groups that are calling for the audit of the 2022 general elections. Once we come back right here on The Morning Drift, my name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiag. Good morning.
Realize your home ownership dream by investing in Brookvale Tuala, a magnificent prime residential property located in Ongata Rongai. Brookvale Tuala by Safaricom Investment Cooperative overlooks the majestic Ngong Hills and lies only 24 kilometers from Nairobi CBD. The project boasts of well-serviced plots with a perimeter wall, graded roads and a borehole. 50 by 100 plots are going for 1.4 million shillings with a flexible payment plan of up to 6 months. To book your plot, call 0729 121212 today. Safaricom Investment Cooperative, the investment partner of choice.
Are you looking for experts in waterproofing systems, concrete admixtures, flooring systems, refurbishment solutions, roofing, sealing and bonding, and building finishing systems? Look no more, as Sika Kenya got you covered. With over 113 years of experience, we offer our customers a comprehensive one-stop shop experience and the best technical support. Our products are available in all leading hardware stores and building merchants across the country. Call us today on 0711 140 232 or 0786 140 834 or email us on sales@ke.sika.com. Sika Kenya, building trust.
Welcome back to The Morning Drift. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. We're still with John this morning, and I'll be asking him exactly to complete his thoughts once we come back from this story. Now, the ongoing talks at the Bomas of Kenya are really taking ground. By the way, we reported a story last Friday of those ladies and gentlemen at the Bomas of Kenya almost getting into fist fights, that it was really heated to the point that they almost fought physically. But then there's a story here that we're going to look at where the Political Parties Liaison Committee has called for an audit of the 2022 presidential election results. Now appearing before the National Dialogue Committee at Bomas of Kenya Monday, PPLC said the audit would eliminate doubts about the results announced by IEBC. Let's take a look at that story, then come back and continue this conversation this morning.
On Monday, which saw more stakeholders increasingly presenting their grievances before the National Dialogue Committee on the ongoing bipartisan talks, it was the turn of the Political Parties Liaison Committee, which is now proposing amendments in the law against the financial allocation of the political parties. Discussion increasingly touching important issues including boundary adjustments in the country, the sensitive issue of the reform of the IEBC Commission, and the high cost of living menace among other issues as quoted in the 5-point agenda before the Dialogue Committee.
Our issue is very basic. We are saying discipline in political parties. Political parties are the ones bringing democracy within the republic. We are requesting that we have timelines. In presidential elections, we have 14 days. In MPs, we have 60 days, 6 months. So we are saying the law should be changed so that we have timelines within which to finalize these disputes. And then we change the law a bit so that we can have support and enhancement for political parties so that we don't have, like so many political parties are complaining, their MPs, their MCAs have line away from them.
Interreligious Council now wants the government to stop new development projects to address the chronic wound of the cost of living, calling on the politicians to consider the laws and rules of their respective political parties that ascended them to power while addressing the infidelity to party stalemate as raised.
Our plea, our submission here is that Kenyans must not be given these levies at the same time, because we all know the cost of living has gone so high, and we need to cushion Kenyans from...
Right. If suspended by your party, you're out, for sure. If the party sponsored you, then you're out. But then for the first time, why did your members go to the other way?
Representatives from the National Youth Council had an opportunity to defend their proposal to demand the passage of their bill into law to enable matters youth to be addressed, appealing to the committee to ensure employment and inclusion into the decision-making process in the national matters.
So what we need to be able to give the youth of this country is an opportunity to represent them, to represent themselves, and also to be able to be part of the people who are making decisions for this country.
Also, leaders from the Sabaot area, while defending their propositions before the committee, have signaled for talks around the creation of Mount Elgon County, which will be made up of 3 constituencies: Endebess, Sabaot, and Mount Elgon, located at the border of Bungoma and Trans Nzoia counties.
May this be the last time that this community is coming to present the same issue that relates to boundaries, that relates to being governed under one administration and feeling part and parcel of this nation.
Sisi kama watu wa Sabaot yetu ilikuwa ni kukuja tu kutoa maoni yetu kulingana na vile constitution inasema, na tukaeleza kwa hiyo legal framework, na tukaeleza kwa political framework na vile kuko sahihi.
Right, all right. That's that particular story that we're looking at this morning. And just before we went on break, John was on the point of why we should be very keen when we listen to some of these political leaders speak. But you can see that PPLC is saying, well, it should not be an issue then. Just audit those results. And once you're done, then the doubt of who won or who did not win would essentially be settled. Is that it, John?
The audit, we will have to wait for the commission to be fully constituted.
Yes.
Because that's part of what the commission should be doing. But the question becomes, when you do the audit, who is going to do this audit?
Yes.
Is it are we going to engage a private auditor? Are we going to engage government auditors? Are we going to allow IEBC to audit itself? Remember, IEBC, just as per the course in their everyday stuff, after every election they have to audit the last elections, so that to inform and make processes better going forward. So is it under that purview? Is it under the same sort of parameters? Or are we saying that we bring in an independent person to audit the elections? And then again, to sort of repeat or reiterate, the question becomes, if by their own confession some of the parties to the elections did not have materials or do not have materials from the last elections, then how are you going to audit? Because the idea of the audit, remember, Form 34A, this is the process. Form 34A, after the polls close at 5 o'clock, you do the counting, you fill out the Form 34A, your agents sign, and then I think it's not in triplicate, I think it's in quadruplicate.
Yes.
So you as the agent for candidate X, you get a copy. And then another copy goes on the door of the polling station, and then outside the door there, so that it's open to the public. Yes. That is the second one. The third copy goes back into the box. It's sort of enclosed in the box with all the other materials for purposes of audit, or if there is a challenge in court and so on, and they order a recount. So one goes into the box. And then there is the electronic one. And if people remember what Smoking Wanjala asked, was it Smoking? Yes. At the time of the Supreme Court petition, he asked, is there a possibility that the copy that was uploaded onto the system, onto the cloud, onto the servers, is it possible for it to change along the way, so that by the time it ends up in the servers or wherever it is different from what you collected for your candidate as an agent, or is different from what is posted there on the door, or is different from what is in the materials? Remember, you have to secure the materials for any eventuality. That's a law. You don't discard that material after the elections. You keep you hang on to it, I think, up to a maximum of 3 years. So the question becomes, for us to do an audit, then we have to get all these 4 copies and compare them, so that we establish that whatever is in the server is different from what you, Simba, collected as an agent for president, for candidate X, and is different from what is on the door there. And remember, schools have gone back. We are in it's actually a year, more than a year after the elections. So schools have gone back. Remember, we use primary schools largely for elections. So if there is any Form 34A that was posted on the door there, it's no longer there, of course. Yes? Yeah. And then there's a question of, they themselves confessed that our agency system was so chaotic and so confused that in some of the places, or most of the places, we did not have agents, which is to simply say that we do not have Form 34A from most of the polling stations. So how do you do the audit? Whatever is in the server will end up being the final document. Yeah? So you can sort of see what's going on. This is just PR, and it's not going anywhere. Nothing is going to change. The audit is not going to change anything. Because like I said, when you're doing an audit, you compare documents. So what are we going to compare the Form 34s that are in the server with, if we don't have them? So whatever is in the server is the final document. You can only challenge it by saying, by the way, this Form 34A in the system is different from what I'm holding here. But you are holding nothing. So whatever is in the server is final. So again, wild goose chase, not going anywhere. But again, people have to be managed. We have to have some semblance of peace in the country. And it's a good thing, because you can see now with the bipartisan talks, nobody's on the streets, nobody's calling for maandamano. So we are doing something that appears to be structured and going somewhere. But in reality, if you were to really think about what is happening, to be honest with you, nothing much.
Pretty much. Yeah. Good. John, I'd like us to move into the next chapter of our conversation this morning, which is essentially touching on a story that the Standard ran this morning. And if we could have flashed that particular daily on our screens this morning, and this is what they said, that reading Uhuru's scripts is a bold headline on the Standard. They've even gone in and said that whatever it is you guys are doing, essentially what President Uhuru Kenyatta was doing. And they've gone in and say, well, which way? And they asked that question. They're talking about debt management, and they're saying that the Kenyans officials were all over the place rallying at the Uhuru government for borrowing. However, 1 year later, appetite for debt has grown. That's what they're saying here. And then they're talking about BBI, bipartisan talks. Now the government is using the talks as a launchpad for constitutional changes. Some proposals done then are being returned. Good. Prime Minister's office, same thing that was being drummed up in Uhuru Kenyatta's government under BBI is what we're seeing right now. Huduma number, they've just changed the name and called it Maisha number, is exactly what we're saying. Let's essentially begin from what is quite basic. President RUTO took over office when he claimed that the debt levels in this country were unmanageable. And then he said, look here, what I'm going to do is essentially stop borrowing. But then when you start then looking back, year on year, in terms of the amount of money borrowed then to manage government practices, President Uhuru Kenyatta borrowed around 400 billion thereof. Now the numbers we're getting here, we're going to wait for the official numbers from the Auditor General's office. It is more than 1 trillion in the first 1 year. That debt ceiling for 10 trillion was broken in President Ruto's government. Now we are 10.6 trillion, notwithstanding that we rebased our GDP and we can actually add 500 billion more in terms of borrowing. But then when you break that debt ceiling within the first 1 year of you coming in saying, well, I am going to stop borrowing, I'm going to lessen everything, we got to play within our levels, then somebody starts asking questions of what your intention really was. Let's begin on that. That you can't say anything about the debt appetite for this government, even indeed within the first 1 year, you're already 1 trillion plus. But the person you said was borrowing too much in the first 1 year, they were at 400 billion.
That is reality of governance, yes? There's an American saying, or an Americanism, that says during campaigns, you campaign in poetry. Well, when it comes to governance, you govern in prose. Yes. So when you go out there to seek for votes, you have to say all the beautiful things that the electorate would want to hear.
Like the way you're validating David Nd's comment. It's like, oh, guys, you believed him?
Exactly, it's an Americanism.
Is that what you say?
Actually, we have our own version. We have our own version. I don't like you using it, but you remember the late president, may his soul rest in peace, our former president, Moi.
Yes.
What did he say about when you're courting a girl or wooing a girl? What did he say?
What's that? It's a phrase.
You've never heard of that phrase?
No.
He said when you're courting a woman, you tell her anything she wants to hear. And then once tunaita ameingia box, once ameingia box, and then she finds the reality is very, very different. So when we are out there courting and wooing, we'll say all manner of things. Oh, the way I'm wealthy, I'm doing very well, I'm a very, very successful man.
Yeah.
And then dem akiingia box anapata kumbe huyu jamaa. In America, the equivalent of it is we say that you campaign in poetry and you govern in prose. Prose is the boring sort of writing in essay, but poetry is beautiful. The words are beautiful to listen to, makes a lot of sense, and so on and so forth. So that is on the one part. So the truth of the matter is, when you go out to campaign, you are saying all these things that will identify, because remember, campaigns, manifesto is selling yourself.
That's it.
And when you're selling yourself, you want to sell yourself in a way that identifies with the electorate, so that they look at you and say, this candidate, by the way, is making a lot of sense.
Yes.
He's talking to my dreams. He's talking to my aspirations. This is the person to vote for.
That's it.
Yes? So I will vote for him for what he has said, or what he is saying on the campaign trail.
Yes.
So there is that part. And then there is the part of the reality. When you get into office and you realize, kumbe, there are so many sort of things happening at the same time. So that is what the situation that the current government is facing. Because when you look at the numbers are 3.6 trillion, the budget for the current year, 24-25.
Yes.
Sorry, 23-24.
23-24.
3.6 billion.
Yes.
Sorry, trillion. Out
Yes.
of this 3.6 trillion, we are looking at collecting about 2.5 trillion in taxes. And then we are looking at a further 700 billion, which is to come from grants, aid, budgetary support from our multilateral partners, appropriations in aid, the money that government collects from selling services, so fees and so on and so forth. And then the order of around 600 billion is what we're going to borrow. Out of this 600 billion we were going to borrow initially, before they changed, we were going to borrow largely internally from the local markets, and then a part of it was going to be borrowed from the international markets. So they've changed that. They've changed that, I think, from a statement I saw from the that lady Okanga.
Yeah.
They changed that to the other way around. So they're looking at minimizing what they're borrowing internally to around 180 billion. And then the rest is going to come from 500 billion is going to come from borrowing in the international market. And that's the reality of how you make budgets. It's either that or you collect 2.5 trillion and spend 2.5 trillion. But we know that according to the size of the economy and where we are and the spending that is required to keep this economy growing and moving, is that we have to borrow. So borrowing is a must. But then once you've acknowledged that reality, then the question becomes, how are we doing in terms of the borrowing and what has been inherited from the previous governments? Because at the end of the day, you have to pay for past debts. It works like, I tell people, for you to understand what is happening, think of it on a micro level. Think of it as your own personal spending. What happens to you when you live beyond your means? You have to borrow to cover that gap, isn't it? What happens if you're continually busting your budget year in, year out, or month in, month out? You're going to end up with outsized debts. So this is the reality. At the end of the Moi administration, when Kibaki was coming to power, he inherited around 600 billion worth of debt.
Yes.
And then Kibaki pushed it up to around 1.8 trillion. So by the time Kibaki left, he had accumulated 1.2 plus the other 600, so 1.8. And then after Kibaki, Uhuru came, and we basically exploded our debt from that under 2 trillion shillings to the current 9 trillion. So it's actually jumped almost 500%. So, and remember, debt is a sovereign charge on, it's a charge on the sovereign, what is called the consolidated fund services, that you have to pay debt first before anything else. So if you look at the numbers coming out of government today, or for the past 2 months, July and August of this new financial year, is we have collected taxes and all that money that government, basically income for government, is around 240 billion for July and 240 billion for August. Out of this 240 billion, around 60%, which is 100 and in the order of around 130, 120, has gone towards paying debt. You remember we have a 9 trillion, which is now 10 trillion,
which is
because
now
of the weakening of the
which is now
shilling.
10.6 trillion.
Yes.
Yes.
So out of every monthly expenditure, we're actually spending more paying back debt. Yes, paying back debt than we are spending on paying for teachers, paying for police, paying for keeping the lights on, and so on and so forth. So we are spending more to pay debt that we've already accrued. And that's a sort of the meal around the government's neck. That the reality is we have to pay for debt. Remember, like I said, the government has to, the first charge on government expenditure is paying debt. And we have a debt that has ballooned from 2013 to today from 2 trillion to 10 trillion shillings. if you were to go back to your own sort of micro situation, imagine that scenario where you're earning your money 5,000 shillings a month, but 3,000 has to go to pay for debt that you spent in the previous month and so on and so forth. Of course, you're going to end up with problems, and that is where we find ourselves. That the reality is government has to borrow even more to pay for the 10 trillion debt. That is where we find ourselves. That's the reality of the budget. We can talk about all these other issues, the politics and so on and so forth, but the truth of the matter, the hard financial facts are we spent this money, we did all manner of things, we built hospitals, we built the railway, we built the roads and so on and so forth, but now it's payback time. We've hit the limits of what needs to be done, and that is why these numbers will get worse. Actually, one of the things that is actually creating jitters at the moment is by June of next year, which is the end of this financial year, you remember the famous 2 billion euro bond from 2014 is due.
Yeah, it is due, yeah.
Yes. So we have to pay for that. So we'll go back to the market and borrow to pay that 2 trillion. It's either that or we default.
But you like to think that indeed then the appetite would essentially go a bit lower. I'm going to take you back to a government that has been very heavy on taxes. You like to think that how they're fixing it, John, is to go deep and ask us for more taxes, which they have. I was looking at that report from Treasury in terms of the revenues that came in between the month of July and August. They said, well, good collections. Good, in fact, improved revenue, improved collections, that's it. But when it comes to revenue growth, year on year, it is the slowest that it has been in 2 years. So essentially saying that it was a bit slow in the last year of President Uhuru Kenyatta's tenure, went down again in the last 1 year of President Ruto. Now, this particular one is the worst they've ever seen, grew by around 13%, which is the slowest they've ever seen in the past 2 years. So when those indications are there, John, why would that government again come and tell you, you see, in this financial year, we again plan to borrow 800 billion, meaning they're not stopping, despite the indications, John?
Because they have to pay debt. That's the reality we are in, that we have to pay debt. It's either that or we default. So we have to choose between paying our debts or defaulting. Again, going on a micro level, if you borrow money and have a good life and good living, which is basically living beyond your means, that will catch up with you at some point. So once it catches up with you, the question becomes, are you willing to declare yourself bankrupt and damage your financial profile for 10 years? I think it's 7 years.
That's 7 years, yeah.
From there, yes. Yeah. On a micro level. Yes. So that means in those 7 years, you cannot take a loan, you cannot, basically your financial profile is in tatters. Nobody can, it becomes difficult to secure jobs, it becomes difficult to secure opportunities and so on and so forth. And that is the same situation we find ourselves as a country. Just imagine, our debt has jumped 500% in the last 10 years. From 2 trillion to 10 trillion. Yes? So what do we do? And we know that revenue growth, like you're saying, has not been in tandem with our obligations. So as long as the economy is not growing at the pace at which we've accumulated the debt, then we're going to end up with problems. That's why we're in the situation that we are in, because we have to pay. So the question becomes, what does it mean for workers? I've seen an interesting story, I think it's in the Standard, where workers are finding themselves in a situation where there is a 2/3 rule. I think it's part of a product of the Labor Relations Act of 2007, which basically says employee earnings should not fall below the 2/3 threshold, which is basically if you're earning 10,000 shillings, for example, you should be able to take home at least a minimum of 3,000 shillings. So the 6,000 goes towards paying your, assuming you have a loan facility, to pay for your rent, to pay for all those manner of things. At least you take home 3,000 bob. And because of the new rules and the new taxation, unfortunately, workers are finding themselves in a situation where most of them have actually fallen under that two-thirds threshold. So now then the conversation becomes very, very interesting. What does it mean for us? Because the reality of the matter is we have to pay for those debts. So what do we do?
That's it.
Yes.
Once we come back, I do not know what John's reaction is going to be. Because the critics of this government are saying, well, there's some projects that they would have just avoided. If indeed you're talking about a government that is chatting a different way. Do you know we have Huduma number? And do you know that indeed BBI is a bipartisan talks? Once we come back right here on the Morning Drift, we clear this conversation this morning. Those contributions, keep them coming in. We're online at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms.
Infinity Industrial Park is one of the largest private industrial parks located along Eastern Bypass, Nairobi, which provides modern infrastructure for smooth operations for industries and business enterprises. Infinity Industrial Park offers world-class amenities and facilities with wide roads, a police station, a power substation, fire station, public transport stage, hospital, and shopping mall. In addition, Infinity Industrial Park also offers CCTV cameras, 24-hour private armed security patrol, sewer, water, fiber optic cable, and 3-phase power connection, added to public utility, canteen, and dining areas. Sail on the golden opportunity to invest in Infinity Industrial Park fully serviced warehouses at a special price of 3,569 Kenyan shillings per square foot. For more inquiries, visit our website infinityindustrialpark.com.
Are you an SME looking for a media partner? Look no more, as Lookuptv got you covered for all your visibility and marketing needs. We at Lookuptv understand your business needs and want to work with you on your marketing journey, giving you solutions that will take you to the next level. Call us today on 0707 572 358 or send an email to sales@lookuptv.co.ke and kickstart this amazing journey. Welcome to Lookuptv, your official SME media partner.
All right. Let's clear this conversation this morning. You're watching Lookuptv. In case you're just joining us, we are with John this morning, just looking at where this economy stands. Now, before we don't break, John, the question is that indeed, if we're not waiting from the same script from the former government, then indeed we are, according to the critics. Number one, let's talk about BBI. Call it whatever you may. That's what people are saying. Call it whatever you may. But all these issues that the former government was told not to ever step on are now getting discussed at that bipartisan committee at the Bomas of Kenya. That is BBI version 2. Do you agree that indeed what we are proposing in the Bomas of Kenya, and hopefully we're going to get a draft, is essentially BBI?
Yes, definitely. The truth of the matter is, they say that history repeats itself.
Yes.
And what we are seeing with the BBI 2.0 is exactly what the conversations we are having today largely mirror what was the conversations from 1 year ago,
yes.
Isn't it?
Yes.
That it is the issue of creating positions. And remember, the president promised us when he was campaigning, or promised Kenyans, that Do you want us to sort out the economy, or
Yes.
do you want us to sort out positions for a few men and women here in the country? And people were sort of, in a very resounding way, said that sort out the economy first and leave the issue of, and that is why I'm saying this thing is going to be very, very dangerous, because how are we going to end up in a, how do you even justify in an economy that is struggling pushing for a referendum? Because we'll end up in a referendum somehow, yes? Or even if it's not that, we'll end up with these matters being litigated afresh in the Supreme Court and all the courts from the High Court going up. So are we willing to do that? Why would we spend time, expend all these resources, time, money, and so on and so forth, and the energy, rather than rebuilding the country?
Yes.
So it is true, yes, it is BBI 2.0. So the question that we should be asking ourselves, particularly those people sitting in Bomas, is Kenya ready for a 2.0 version of the BBI?
Yes.
And that should be able to guide them going forward, that perhaps what we are doing is basically just burning through money. Money that we should be putting into some other products.
Yes.
Things.
A question being, why is this government not calling it BBI? Because it's essentially BBI, John.
It's called, it's a government of rebranding, isn't it? We have Maisha number, which is basically
which we're going to get to next now.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So it's, again, campaigning in poetry and governing in prose.
Yes.
That the reality of the matter is, there isn't so much, we are not reinventing the wheel, basically. These problems are the same. We've known them from time immemorial. We talk about, at the time of independence, saying we are fighting three enemies: disease, poverty, and
corruption,
illiteracy.
And illiteracy.
It's the same things we're talking about today, 60 years later. Talking about Pan-Africanism and the progress we've made as Africans. But the truth of the matter is, we seem to be talking about the same things, because the problems at the heart of what is happening in the country,
yes,
not just us, but in the broader world, is those same three issues,
yes,
that largely to do with poverty, largely to do with illiteracy, and largely to do with a lack of well-being.
Does it become easy then to criticize this government, not even critique it, to criticize it, going by the fact that some of the things that look very big in terms of what they want to achieve are essentially a script that was in the previous government? So how different are you? What are you going to stand and tell people that indeed we've achieved this and this and this, but when you and I stand there, we'll look at it and then say, but you know, this could have been achieved in the previous government if you didn't come in and say no to it. Case in point, the opposition of the Prime Cabinet Secretary, call it a different name, but it was essentially a Prime Minister position. The office of the opposition, call it whatever it is that you want, but it was also in the BBI draft. This proper representation, the reconstitution of IEBC and all that, it was a document in the BBI process. Now, it goes even further to talk about how much money should be going to the counties, the subdivision of counties, that bigger counties should be receiving more than the smaller counties. Same draft that was in the BBI. Amount of money that should be going to special groups, the youths and special groups within the country. It's a draft that was within the BBI. If you're reading from the same script, then you haven't done it, John, have you?
You have done it, because the idea is moving that conversation from being a conversation or a concept to actualization.
But you said no to it back then,
yes,
when you're on the other side of the government.
Yes, because you were not the one who is going to take credit eventually. If that was to succeed today, and we have BBI 2.0, assuming, hypothetically it happens and it goes all the way and Kenyans support it and we create all those things we are creating, who takes credit?
Is it a new idea though?
It's the president, isn't it? No, it's the current administration.
But would they take credit for that? It's not. Of
course they would. Yes.
John, it's not a new idea.
It's not a new idea, simply because it's not you who is in charge.
If I created a vehicle, if I manufactured my car, did everything to it, all right, got the wheels on it, got everything on it, got the seatbelts on it, got painted it, you know, got my license on it, did everything, but the car just failed to move. And the only thing that you
and then I come in and I
just
take the same car, change the color, change the paint, change a few things. Who's going to take credit? It's me, isn't it?
You didn't create the car. You're not the manufacturer.
But I'm the one who put it on the road.
But John, you failed. A mechanic is not going to say that I'm the one who made a car, is it? Mechanic is not going to say that.
No, in the sense that you can imagine if the car is, to use your analogy, the car is stationary, can't move. But it needs to move, isn't it? Because that is what the definition of a car is. That it's a motorable item or instrument that can move you from this point to that point, isn't it?
Yes.
But if you have failed to move it from that point to that point, but have come in and moved that to that.
Yes.
So I take the credit, isn't
John,
it? I take the credit.
It was moving
before. Who moved the car from there to there.
John, it was moving before. You just came in.
No, it wasn't moving.
It was moving. It was already moving.
BBI failed.
It was moving.
It was dead.
You didn't want the car to
dead.
move. Yes.
BBI 1.0 is dead.
Because of why?
If BBI 2.0 succeeds, then whoever is behind it will take the credit.
Yes.
Regardless of what happened previously.
Regardless of changing nothing in that draft.
That is how life works, my friend. That is why yesterday on Sunday, we had the Berlin Marathon. And one of the stories that came out was the pace setter for the lady who eventually won the marathon. She kept moving with the girl all the way to the end, I think up to the 41st kilometer. Yes? But who took the credit? Who took the credit? Is it the pace setter? Or is it the lady, what's her name? The Ethiopian girl.
Yeah.
Who took credit? Yet, the pace setter went with the lady all the way, almost to the end. Up to 41 kilometers, I think that's where he dropped off. And that is how life works, unfortunately. That, remember, there is also another saying that defeat or failure is an orphan, but success is always, has many parents. Yeah? Why? Because we all like basking in the glory of success. And that is basically what is going on. And that is how government works. That is how life works.
Yes.
Now, most of the things we're doing, we are simply reinventing the wheel. Nobody is inventing the wheel. The wheel already exists.
Yes.
So the question becomes, who makes the wheel better? Who makes the wheel rotate even much more efficiently, for example? And so on and so forth. So the person who does that takes credit. But nobody gives credit to the person who actually came up with the wheel. That's why we call it reinventing the wheel. So the government, if they succeed in doing all those things, for example, we know, we spoke about this a few weeks ago, and we said that when you critically look at what is happening, is some of these things are borne out by evidence that actually it seems like government is making progress in some of the issues. You look at, for example, the issue of fertilizer. It's well been said out there. Yes?
Yes.
Food production. We know that food production is going up or has gone up. We know that, for example, the employment of teachers. The government has employed 56,000 new teachers over the last 2 years or since they came into power. We know that government revenues are up on average 20 billion a month on the first 2 months, July and August, an extra 20 billion a month.
Yes.
So you can see that there are areas where they're making progress. And one of the reasons is, of course, the government is not afraid to experiment and to try new things. So they've been doing it. That is why they're all over the news, trying all these different things, because that's the only way you make progress. It is either that or you sit back and assume that everything is going to work itself out.
Yes.
So in terms of experimenting, in terms of tweaking policies and changing things here and there, the government has been doing that. The question is, some of it, of course, we don't know where it's going to end up in. But that's the reality of life. That's the reality of governance. That the truth of the matter is, whoever actualizes what is happening gets the credit.
Yes.
It is very, very unfortunate and very, very sad that Uhuru tried all these different things, and unfortunately some of it failed, but largely because of BBI failing, we characterized him, or we as Kenyans have characterized him as a failure. But government is basically doing the same things, rebranding, Maisha number, Huduma number, BBI, and so on and so forth, creation of a prime minister, and so on and so forth. But that is the sad reality of governance. That's why we say we govern in prose.
That's it.
Yeah.
Let me point you out to a statement here that is essentially going to point out to how essentially this government is still trying to get its feet. And that's where the critics are looking at it from John, that indeed, you guys didn't have a plan on these particular issues that you are vehemently campaigning against the previous regime. I'm just going to mention a few. John, you and I sat here when the government administered a fuel levy just before the latest increment, and they said you should not call that a levy. Just hold on to that. But when you ask economists to actually define what they were doing, when you pay a supplier in the economy to sell at a loss and you tell them, I'm going to look for money and pay you, that is a subsidy. But the government went right ahead and even cautioned many houses from using those words. In fact, the president himself even called on the Daily Nation to refrain from lying to Kenyans on exactly what they're doing. But when you go back to what did you actually do? I went to the petroleum development levy. I removed money from there, and then I gave the oil market. I compensated them. Good. Then what did Uhuru Kenyatta do? He went to the petroleum development levy, removed money from there, and then compensated oil marketers in the country. So what is that? But we're told, no, don't call it a subsidy. Yes. Do not. All right. Here's round two again. There's already 1 billion that has been spent on a new drive that is essentially a version of Huduma number. You listen to the CS, ICT, stand and speak. Tell them, how is it going to be administered? Oh, from birth now, everybody's going to have one thing, one number, identifier all the way. Government service will be attached to it. The only thing we're not going to do is tell people who already have ID numbers to go get it. But from today henceforth, any other person who is born in this country will be graduated onto the Maisha number. But then he mentions, slowly, we would then onboard the rest of the country on Maisha number. When you ask people, how was Huduma number? Same thing. What do you want to achieve with it? Same thing.
But people have to eat. People have to eat.
Why did you campaign against it if you were going to introduce it?
Huduma number, I think from what is coming out, costed us 10 billion.
10 billion, back in 2019.
Shillings.
Yeah.
We don't know how much Maisha number is going to cost us.
Yes.
But let me start with the principle first. That it makes sense that for every Kenyan to have a personal identification number for obvious reasons, yes. That is the principle. So if I use the example of the US, for example, you have what is called the social security number. That social security number is what goes on your driver's license. It goes on to it's your tax number. It's what you use to access government services. In the UK, yes, they have what is called there's a name in the UK they use for that same sort of concept, which is basically the same number that is used across, that identifies you, Simba, and allows you to access government services, whether it's schools, hospitals, and so on and so forth. So that is the principle. Because you look at us, we have so many different numbers. You've got your ID, you've got your passport, you've got your driver's license, you've got the KRA PIN, and so on and so forth. So the principle is, why can't we collapse all these things into one number so that Simba is Kenyan number XYZ? So that when you go to the hospital, when you're paying your taxes, that same number is actually under your record. So that the way it works elsewhere. So that is the principle that they had in mind. And it makes it easier to provide government services. And again, as we digitize and become, everything moves online, then it becomes easier for you to operate. And it makes a lot of sense. But now the question is, why not simply take your KRA PIN number? Or why simply not take your ID number, which already exists because all of us have, yes, and then make it your personal identification number? So that you use that same number for your driver's license, you use that same number for your KRA when you're paying your taxes, and so on and so forth. So that when you go for government services on eCitizen, you use the same number. Why don't we do that? Nobody has answered that question. Why do we find it necessary, yes, to spend all this money to create things that probably will not change anything? Yes. So I've had one of somebody trying to justify and say that if you were to use the ID number, you'll end up with a situation where we know ID numbers have been created multiple times. We know there are people with 435 identities. So what happens? But you collapse them into one. You prosecute in those instances where if you're holding multiple ID numbers, you have to explain how you came about having 5 IDs. Yes? So why can't we just simply streamline whatever we already have, or even the KRA PIN? Because I don't think I know of anybody who has 2 KRA PIN numbers. Why can't we just use that KRA PIN number then to become our personal identifiers? Because again, like I said, in principle it makes sense, in the sense that you have to have one number so that if you're talking about Simba, you can actually go into a database and sort of get access to all his personal information, like it happens in the US, and what is called the social security number. In the UK, it's called the national insurance number. Yes, that's the word I was looking for.
Yes.
So it's the same in the UK. So when you, and in Germany, in all those places, that you have that unique identifier that basically is replicated across all your documents.
Yes.
So why can't we do that? Which is basically have a conversation around, we already have these numbers existing somewhere. So what we're going to do is, we're going to make, say for example, the KRA PIN to be your identifier. Then everything else cascades from that. So your ID, your driver's license, when you're going to access government services, on e-citizen, and so on and so forth. So that PIN becomes, your PIN, KRA PIN becomes the same identifier across the board. That's a conversation we should be having, rather than this nonsense of every few years we come up with Huduma number. So we spent 10 billion shillings. Now with Maisha number, I've seen 1 billion.
Already?
But the truth of the matter is it's going to end up much
it's
higher.
It's going to end up much higher.
So again, those are the conversations we should be having. That the government should be telling Kenyans, why are we doing these things? And then, what are the options? Is this really the best option? Of all the options available to us, is this the best? And then people can make informed decisions going forward, because at the end of the day, we don't want to spend money that would rather go somewhere else, do something more productive.
Pretty much.
Just to satiate somebody's...
And out of that, those questions we'll be asking is that, would this be the priority project that the government will be getting into just 1 year into their governance? Because there are other areas that are in dire need of government's attention. And just to be clear on this conversation I joined this morning, and this is where the critics are essentially coming from. But when you look at the healthcare sector in the country, they've not figured it out. It's when they're trying to figure it out. You do know the new NHIF bill that essentially is going to separate Kenyans into 3 cadres, where if you're well-managed, you can go get this treatment. If you're not well-managed, then you're essentially put in 3 different cadres that you have to pay for, even though you're going to access healthcare in the country. Good. Education. John, you and I know very well that there's already a crisis that has been created in the education sector in the country in as regards higher education. It is now cheaper to go to a private school or private university in this country than it is to go to a public university as it stands. That indeed, when it comes to those priority projects, John, where they had to figure it out by themselves, and that's what I'm getting at you, that, oh, it's us now, let's figure it out by ourselves. They have not, John, but those ones were already figured out. The likes of BBI, the likes of Huduma number, guess what? They're already taking. They're already taking ground, isn't it? Because the framework was there.
You do not invent the wheel. You reinvent the wheel. The truth of the matter is,
instead of painting it is reinventing it. Oh, I've created a new car. It's now red.
Yes, it's now red and it's moving. The thing is this: governance is not easy.
Yeah.
If you were to really analyze and try to understand what politicians tell us when they're campaigning, like I said, they will tell you all these beautiful things about what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, and who is going to pay for it, and how they're going to do to mobilize the resources and so on and so forth. But once they get into office, it all falls apart. So it is a very, very brilliant idea. You look at of course, Kenya Kwanza had what is called the plan.
That's it.
Which is basically lays out most of these things. And actually, when you look at, for example, the health issue, it's actually the way they are proposing is what is in the plan.
No, sir.
They're actually implementing what is in the plan. As to whether it's going to be successful, nobody knows, because it's still early days. But the truth of the matter is, Huduma number, Maisha number, is the same concept. BBI 2.0 is BBI 1.0. But now from history, because history repeats itself, we know that some of these things ended up in abject failure. So we know that BBI 1 failed. So most likely BBI 2 is going to fail. Huduma number failed.
Yes.
most likely maisha number is going to fail. What else? There's the issue of what else have they tried to replicate from the previous administration? The issue of debt, we've already talked about that.
Yeah.
That unfortunately we're in a situation where we accumulated so much debt that unfortunately, like I said, it's the first charge on our expenditures. That we have to pay first before anything else. So that's a sad reality.
Yes.
So the government of the day, even if we were to say, for example, hypothetically, if the government was, this administration was to go home today, the administration that will come tomorrow will face the same problems. They will have to start by paying debt. So that's the reality that we are in.
That's it.
And that is why last time when we were having a conversation, my desire would be that perhaps we should be asking the circumstances under which we took this debt, what we did with the debt, and who is responsible.
That's it.
And could some of these, especially the international debt, be what we call odious debt, which means that if it is odious, then it means we do not have, it removes the responsibility from us to pay it back. Because some of these expenditures, honestly, SGR, almost 1 trillion shillings, that ends up somewhere duka moja along Narok, so that is one. The other thing I like using the example of the expressway from Lolongo to Westlands. How do we justify spending 105 billion on 29 kilometers of road? That works out to about 4 billion a kilometer.
Somebody said, when you say 29, is it both ways? Or?
Just a stretch. So both ways is 58, but it's on the same elevation, isn't it? Yeah. It's the same pier from that point to that point. And the way I like, just think about this, because many people are familiar with the road. Think of it this way. You see the roundabout from Haile Selassie, Pale Green Park, all the way to about Museum Hill. You see Museum Hill, the interchange there. It's about 3 kilometers. At 4 billion, that is 12 billion, honestly. From Haile Selassie roundabout to about Museum Hill, that's about 3 kilometers, just under 3 kilometers. That is 12 billion shillings. 12 billion shillings with 12 zeros. Honestly. But now it's payback time. We didn't ask those questions. Again, you think about, let me use one last example. Outer Ring Road. Outer Ring Road cost 1 billion a kilometer. So from Taj Mall all the way up to Allsops, there, GSU, that road costed 1 billion a kilometer, honestly. Is there a road there for the world? And the most dangerous in Africa. At 1 billion shillings a kilometer. You know, 1 billion is a lot of money. 12 zeros, my friend. So we spent all that money. We had a good time. I said we enjoyed ourselves. We got amazing infrastructure because the expressway looks very, very nice. You've seen the drone shots. Very, very beautiful. I would imagine a movie like Tom Cruise's Mission Impossible if they were to do like the 4th one. We asked them to come and shoot it on. It's very, very beautiful. I would say yes. But at 4 billion a kilometer. We have to pay it back.
Take 15 seconds to respond to this. We're stepping out. Exactly 15 seconds. I've got one on Duko Michael was asking, does John know that Donald Trump tried to change Obamacare to give it a different painting, but he failed completely? No wonder this government is just renaming as opposed to repainting.
Yeah, he's on it. He's just made the point I'm making, that you have success with your rebranding, basically. There is nothing new we are doing. We are reinventing the wheel. The question becomes who is successful in moving that wheel from this point to that point. If I'm successful in moving it there, then I take the success. If I fail, then I've failed. And that's why Trump tried to change Obamacare by renaming it and doing all sorts of funny things. But because it's the only thing that they could do. Unfortunately, he failed. Obamacare still stands up to today. But there's a real problem, or there is a real possibility that he'll come back into office. So what happens once he wins next year? So we are going to see.
That's it.
Yes.
Pretty much, John. Thank you very much for coming by, man.
Thank you.
I do appreciate it. I do apologize. Majority of our panel that was supposed to be with us this morning with John here did get into some emergencies or sorts this morning, and they're saying that they will be here with us tomorrow. But John quite stood up to the task this morning. Take him back to the time that he joined us this morning at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. Once we come back, I'll be having a conversation on some areas of the beauty and and also, it's actually the beauty industry in the country. Once we come back.
Infinity Industrial Park is one of the largest private industrial parks located along Eastern Bypass, Nairobi, which provides modern infrastructure for smooth operations for industries and business enterprises. Infinity Industrial Park offers world-class amenities and facilities with wide roads, a police station, a power substation, fire station, public transport stage, hospital, and shopping mall. In addition, Infinity Industrial Park also offers CCTV cameras, 24-hour private armed security patrol, sewer, water, fiber optic cable, and 3-phase power connection, added to public utility, canteen, and dining areas. Sail on the golden opportunity to invest in Infinity Industrial Park fully serviced warehouses at a special price of 3,569 Kenyan shillings per square foot. For more inquiries, visit our website infinityindustrialpark.com.
Realize your home ownership dream by investing in Brookvale Tuala, a magnificent prime residential property located in Ongata Rongai. Brookvale Tuala by Safaricom Investment Cooperative overlooks the majestic Ngong Hills and lies only 24 kilometers from Nairobi CBD. The project boasts of well-serviced plots with a perimeter wall, graded roads and a borehole. 50 by 100 plots are going for 1.4 million shillings with a flexible payment plan of up to 6 months. To book your plot, call 0729 121212 today. Safaricom Investment Cooperative, the investment partner of choice.
Are you looking for experts in waterproofing systems, concrete admixtures, flooring systems, refurbishment solutions, roofing, sealing and bonding, and building finishing systems? Look no more, as Sika Kenya got you covered. With over 113 years of experience, we offer our customers a comprehensive one-stop shop experience and the best technical support. Our products are available in all leading hardware stores and building merchants across the country. Call us today on 0711 140 232 or 0786 140 834 or email us on sales@ke.sika.com. Sika Kenya, building trust.
Are you an SME looking for a media partner? Look no more, as Lookuptv got you covered for all your visibility and marketing needs. We at Lookuptv understand your business needs and want to work with you on your marketing journey, giving you solutions that will take you to the next level. Call us today on 0707 572 358 or send an email to sales@lookuptv.co.ke and kickstart this amazing journey. Welcome to Lookuptv, your official SME media partner.
are watching Lookup TV. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. We are online on Lookup TV across all your social media platforms. The hashtag that you can use right now to be part and parcel of this conversation is the Morning Draft. I want to introduce you to a line of business that in one way or another you'll be taught something different or something new as a potential client. I'm going to talk to you about one of the biggest industries in the world, which is essentially the beauty industry. You have different ways to look at it. But then I want to introduce you to a conversation that touches close to you. There are businesses, big and small, that have figured how to make you, and I'm saying that because I've just learnt about that one a couple seconds into this conversation, make you feel and look better. That's what we want to talk about. So the only way then to talk about this conversation is introduce you to businesses that have already figured it out. I want to introduce you to Milele Beauty and Health Spa. It is a spa that has figured out all that you need in terms of feeling beautiful and looking the part. And they're saying both men and women, I'll be learning with the children also part of this conversation shortly, that we have a one-stop solution for you. So for those who are wondering what this is, then you can check them out. Milele Beauty Health and Spa. So let me introduce to you Miss Maina Agnes. How are you doing?
I'm fine. You?
Fantastic. I'm about to learn. Let me first start. Milele.
Yes.
When did you start?
Many years ago, 19 years ago.
That's a long period in the business, isn't it?
Yes.
Especially for a beauty business.
Yes, yes. I began in year 2004. So I think it's 19 years ago.
Time is really moving very fast. Hold on. 2004 is 19 years ago.
Milele is an adult. It's over 18.
Has it? But it's really surprising that you can talk about 2004 and then you say that's 19 years ago.
Yeah.
My God, time is running.
Yes, yes.
As an adult in the business,
yes,
I think you've watched it grow.
Yes, yes.
How did you start? Could you paint for us a picture how Milele started 19 years ago?
Milele began as a small... Okay, let me start from when I was a child. I wanted to do business.
Okay.
That was my dream, but I didn't know what sort of a business. So after school, after university, I found myself in that field.
Did you, in university, did you do a course that relates to the beauty industry?
No.
Yes.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I had been admitted to the university to study education.
That's it.
But I figured it wasn't for me, so I changed and studied business studies and economics.
I see that.
Yeah.
Then it gives you the business acumen then, isn't it?
Yeah, a bit. But up to that point, it wasn't clear. I knew I wanted to do business, but I didn't know what line, because business is wide. I didn't know what line to take until after I got a job, a 9-to-5 job in a media company that went under.
That's it.
And so there were challenges, and I wanted money. I needed money. I needed a job. I needed to survive.
That's it.
So a good friend of mine introduced me to a friend of his who had a group of businesses. And I was at a point that I wanted a job. So my friend said, he's called James. Yeah. So he said, maybe, I don't know if you like it, it could not be, maybe it's like a small job, but you can do it.
You know, in the meantime,
then I said, I want a job, So he introduced me to his friend who had a group of businesses, small businesses, but she had She had a secretarial bureau. That time they were booming. Place to do photocopies, typing, I don't know what. So she had, I think, 5 lines of business. She had a secretarial bureau. She had a computer college. She had a salon. She had a barber shop. And what else did she have? And a cyber cafe. So she had 5 lines of businesses. She was looking for someone to manage. So I went for the interview. Then she said, what will give you the job is if you, the salon is disturbing me, the salon and the barber shop is giving me a headache. So if you're not able to revive it, then there's no job. There's no job for you. So, and I wanted a job, like I wanted a job.
So your task was to revive that business.
Yeah.
So if you revive it, then you have a job. But if you don't revive it,
then
she was almost giving up on it.
Yeah. So I gave it my best. It was the first time I'd gotten into that space. But okay, it wasn't the only thing. But she said, this is my main concern. The others I can hack. But this one, if you're not able to revive it, then there's no job for you, because the others I can do for myself. So I think God gave me grace, because I'd been given 3 months. Within the 3 months, it was looking up. Things were good in the barbershop and the salon and in the businesses in general. So I got the job.
That's after 3 months of working hard.
Yeah.
Trying to figure exactly how to make it.
The business turned around.
Yes.
Yeah. So I got the job.
That's when your first payment came in? Were you getting paid during this period that you were
Yes, but I wasn't sure for how long. And of course, it wasn't a good pay, because...
Of course, definitely. Your line of business is not
I had to prove myself. I had to prove myself.
That's it.
So that's the first time I got exposed to the salon. And and I think because it was really, she put it, her name, God bless her, her name is Agnes, she's my namesake. So she's the one who gave me the chance to mirror the business. And I had to understand the business for me to turn it around. So I had to learn so many things. And she had a big salon, a big barber shop, with modern equipment. So I learned so much. I researched, I studied, I did everything that I could to turn there. I learned how to, I think I did everything. The HR, I had to work closely with the staff, all that. And so, by the grace of God, after a few months, it had turned around. In 1 year, she opened a branch. She opened another salon and barber shop.
Under the same name, isn't it?
Yes. Now when I was her manager, the manager of her business, she was able to open another salon and barber shop. In another location, but within the same area. And so I stayed for I think 1 year, 2 months.
From the time that you went in? Yes. You stayed for 1 year, 2 months. Essentially, the first 3 months were you trying to figure the business, starting it? And within that 1 year...
No, it was ongoing. It was just reviving it.
That's it.
It wasn't profitable. It was giving her a headache. So within that 1 year, within 1 year after I joined her, she was able to open a branch. And so I was also involved a lot in opening the new business, staffing, things, planning. And then after, I think I stayed with her for 1 year, 2 months. And then, I think, I don't know, the grace was over. She didn't need me anymore. So again, I was back to, I needed a job. But now, it became clear, now this had gotten into me. I've learned this, so I can do my own.
You've got experience now?
I've got experience now, so I could do my own. So that's how I began my salon. Though I didn't begin straight away from leaving her, I think it took me like a year or so.
Yes.
Yeah. So it took me after a year, or I think after a year, I began Milele now. Now I had done, it was like I could do it with closed eyes.
That's
I had figured out
everything, isn't
yeah,
it?
And then I had run the one she had begun and had helped her begin a new branch. So that's how I found, now that I didn't have a job again, I figured out I was living in Embakasi, and there were no salons. It was, I think it was a new place. It was a new estate near Embakasi. Those days, there were not many people. There were not facilities. So like if we wanted to do hair, you'd go to faraway places. If you wanted a decent place to do your hair. So I got the opportunity. So I opened my first branch in Embakasi. That's how Milele began. It began just a small, I think about 4 workstations, 3 dryers, 6 staff, I included, and that's how
the journey
began. Yeah.
I like the name. Is it because you said, well, this is gonna be permanent now, Milele,
nitakuwa, yeah. And then I figured I wanted something that would outlive me. I live for my children. They live for their children. Yeah.
Now let's talk about where you are right now.
Yeah.
You've got 18 years in business, 19 years in business. Sorry, that's a long period.
Yes.
You've seen the business grow.
Yes.
From when you started it up to where it is right now.
Yes.
Are you proud of the steps that you've made at Milele?
Yeah, but I'm proud. I like where I am, but it's not where I should be. It's not the best I could do.
What is the vision that you have for Milele if you've not gotten there 19 years later?
Yeah, I'm not there yet.
Yes.
I'm not where I want to be. Yeah. I want it to be a regional business.
I see.
Yeah. I wanted, and then even after 19 years, it's not yet a household name. I mean, I want Milele to be a household name. I want when Simba is budgeting, doing his budget every month, let him.
It's like this one is for Milele.
Yeah, this is for grooming. Until that time, I'll know Milele is there.
Pretty much. Let's talk about Milele now then. But just before we went on air, I asked you this question.
Yeah.
That when it comes to a salon and a health spa,
yeah,
it is a modern concept to majority of people.
Yes.
When you say that I am a health spa,
yeah,
what do you mean?
You find, in my years of business, I've learned that the beauty aspect of grooming is related to so many things.
Yes.
that just under. I mean, they're not. It's related. Beauty is related to psychology, the feelings.
That's it.
Yeah, it's related to many things, and it affects people's lives in very different ways than we know. In more ways than we know.
That's it.
Like grooming will affect how you look. That is the most obvious. Yeah, grooming. You cut your hair.
Yes.
You do a facial, you do your feet, you do a manicure, that affects how you look. That is the obvious thing. But now there are psychological benefits of grooming. How you feel, it affects how you look. How you look affects how you feel. How you look and feel affects how productive you become.
Yeah. That's exactly
in the work you do. Yeah. So it helps you give your best. So it impacts your productivity. Yeah.
One of the ways that we're talking about this being a lifestyle now.
Yeah.
If I walk into a Milele
yes.
joint today.
Yes.
What is this thing that is going to make me feel at home, that I'm here to feel good? I'm here to walk out, not to shave or do whatever it is, that at the end of the day, I'm going to feel good. What have you done in your joint to make Milele one of those places that it's not just a business, it's a place where people go to feel good?
To start with, you find people, you are received by people who already feel good.
Oh yeah.
So we affect,
Have you made sure? Have you made sure of that? Well, is there a special way that you treat your employees?
Yes.
Yes. So once I walk in, the guys were feeling good. Is that
When you find people who are feeling good, and your mood is affected by people you are relating to. So if you come for a haircut, Simba, and for the period you'll be there for your haircut, you'll be around people who feel good, who love their job. Yeah, because I realized that it's a fact that customers, when they come to Milele, they come for two things: a solution to a problem. Maybe you want to cut your hair, so you want a solution to your problem, and either you want to feel special.
Like when I walk into a joint.
Yeah, it's essentially you have two needs. Either you want to feel good, feel special, or it's to solve a problem. You want a solution to a problem that you have. You want to do your hair, you want to do your feet, you want to do a facial. So it's a solution. You are seeking a solution to a problem that you have. And all you want to feel special. So we try our best. That is our aim. That is our goal every morning. That we want our customers to feel special, and we want to provide solutions to their problems.
Pretty much. I want to ask you a question. Of course, later on, we're going to speak to the men and the children and see whether you have a solution for them. I want to ask you a question that I keep on finding from time to time.
Yes.
That there's something called a specific service in a health and beauty spa that people would like to go in. Yes, I'm going into Milele, but there's somebody inside there who did my hair good, who did my nails good, you know, who did a very nice facial. And they say this: if I don't meet that person the following week, then I'll be like, hey, yo, Milele, wanna change watu guys, nienda huku sikupata Juma or Mary or somebody. For somebody who's learned the business and knows very well, the people, yes, they're attached to the business, but then they're also attached to the individuals who, you know, grooming is a very personal business.
Exactly,
What are you doing to retain your employees? Make sure that if Simba is working with me, Simba is going to be with me for a very long time, because I know people will come here looking for Simba at Milele.
I think many things. I think in Milele we are doing many things. One, I just make sure that they love their job. Because when I began all earlier in the past years, grooming was not taken so seriously. It was taken like it's for failures. Oh, she didn't make it to university. Oh, so she's gonna go to salon. Yeah, so she can do salon. You know, it wasn't taken seriously. So I had that when I got my first job in the salon. I wanted to change that. I wanted to, I wanted a salon. I wanted the salon to be like any other business, So it's not for failures. So I make sure that my staff know that they are not failures, that they chose, it's a career. I want them to be at par with their peers in the other industries. Yeah, if somebody is working for Lookuptv and somebody else is working in Milele and their peer is working in Milele, I want them to feel they have a job like any other person. Yeah, so I've shown them, they've understood that it is a job like any other, and it pays, and they've seen it pay.
Yes.
Yeah. So besides the training that they receive in college, of course they go this training for the grooming staff. Yes. They've trained to do nails, to cut hair, to do all that stuff. They know. And then besides, I also do part of I just do a bit of training, a little more training. I train my staff on customer care, building self-confidence. You know, they are from different backgrounds. I work with people from different backgrounds, different orientations, so we make sure that we are on the same page. People have self-confidence. People know, trust yourself.
Which is very important.
Yeah,
yes,
that's very important. When you come to Milele, you'll find people who love themselves, who feel good.
And so they radiate that to every customer who walks into Milele, isn't
yes.
it? Pretty much. I want you to speak to a specific set of clients.
Yeah.
Sitaki kuwaita washamba because siku hizi naona wanaitwa washamba. And this is what it is. It's for the male population.
Yes.
Who you now telling, good, we've got a solution for you. Come groom with us. Grooming for men, especially the African man, has over time been viewed as something that is uncustomary. It's not in our culture. Our cultures have been told, yo, you look good, don't look shabby. So that means just get a haircut and move on. That's it. What are some of these things that you would have for these men at Milele? And maybe the most important question is, how do you make these men feel comfortable when they walk into Milele? Ndio, I'll put it to you like they say, tusionekane kama wanawake.
I know.
It's a thing you would get everywhere.
Yeah.
Even my friends, when I tell them, nimetoka scrap, I say, hey, bro, kazi ya wanawake hapa umeenda kufanya huko ndani.
Umekuwa mama.
How would you make them feel comfortable?
Like now in our South B outlet, we just opened a room for the men only. Specifically for men only.
Wait, when you walk in?
Yeah,
it's just a wing for men.
It's a barber shop. Like it's a barber shop, it's a men. Yeah, it's like just around the corner. There's no station for a lady on board. So it's just
Oh, that's great. I would like to walk into that.
With their screen, they're watching their football. They're walking. Yeah, because I appreciate that the interests of men are different from those of women and children. Because we also have the children as customers, so we've given them that, and then. I think it's outdated to just think that grooming is for all. Detailed grooming is for women only. It's for everyone, even for men, because we've said grooming goes past the physical. It determines how you feel, your grooming affects how you feel affects how you live, how you relate with other people. Your productivity. Are you productive in the job you do? It's all about grooming. So, men are welcome for haircuts, and go beyond the haircut. Do a massage, relax. A massage will relax you, and it's a professional massage. Professional massage will relax you. Do your face without thinking that this is lady stuff. No, it's not for women only.
Pretty much.
So a lot of them are doing nails, manicures, pedicures, massage, body scrub, steaming, all the spa stuff.
Is exactly where you walk into at Milele as a man. There's a special clientele as well, and I don't know whether you have. It's a question that I normally get every time. Is that nowadays the weekend or Sundays are days when their fathers walk around with their kids. Like, well, I'm gonna take them to the spa or a salon. Do you have services for kids as well? Where you're saying that your kids can also get this while you're getting this?
Yes. And. In Milele, we are passionate about children, and so we have a kids' corner. We have a room just for kids where, as you groom, we allow them to be children.
That's it.
Yeah, where it's okay to cry. It's okay to want so many hugs. It's okay to it's okay to be a child, because that is what they are. So in the beginning, we had them sit with the ladies, but we're saying grooming is so much related to psychology.
Yeah.
So children feel intimidated when they sit around grown-ups. So they're not able to do, to be children. Yeah. And for us in Milele, when we give the nene, the best person, the best customer, to get the most from the customer is to get the customer comfortable. So if the child is not comfortable, you'll not also enjoy giving the service if your customer is not comfortable. So we have a kids corner. They are just children.
Pretty much.
Children with their toys, with their stuff, and they're just children. And everything is about with their own shampoo unit where they are washed. It's just children. And that way helps us. It helps us focus on every group with a lot of detail. So like for children, we have the specific products for children. It's not what we are using for the ladies, it's what we are using for the children. So we have specific products for the specific groups. We have a kids corner. Everything, the products, the shampoo, the conditioner, the treatments, everything is for children.
That's it.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Then for men, the same. Like we have studied every group.
It's men products.
Yeah, it's men's products. Yeah. It's ladies.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
But another question that I want you to address as quickly as you can.
Yeah.
The people say one of the issues that I face nowadays is that Milele is very good.
Yeah.
And so it's not only me who knows Milele is good. A lot of people know that Milele is good.
Yeah.
And so you walk into a joint as a walk-in customer, you go like, oh man, there's so many people here. Is it possible to book online for Milele, get an appointment? I know very well that nikifika kusaine, mimi ndio niko kwa hiyo section. Is it possible?
Yes, it's possible, and we appreciate. That helps us.
Yes.
Serve you much better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And then also with the person, with the earlier you asked about the staff retention. I would say that we have a very good staff retention rate.
Yes.
So you are always sure you'll find your most preferred person.
Yes.
The person who attends to you. Yeah.
Pretty much. We have a minute for this conversation.
Yeah.
And I want you to speak passionately about what I know you've spoken about it.
Yeah.
But where do you see Milele in the beauty industry in the next 5 years? When you paint that picture, where would you be at?
I would be at, I want a Milele in 5 years. I want a Milele that has taken advantage of technology. I want Simba I want to have a profile, I want to have a profile of Simba and what he likes. So when you book, like you just asked about booking an appointment, I want when you're planning to come, you tell me, Agnes, I'm coming in the next 30 minutes, 1 hour. I want to have, to have a lot of technology where I'll just open Simba's profile and see, wow,
exactly
this is Simba,
what he likes,
so he likes this is his style, this is his word, this is his preferred baba, this is his preferred masseuse. So I just tell the people, Simba is coming for this and this.
And this is what he likes.
Yeah.
Regardless of where he is.
Exactly.
He might be in Kisumu or whatever it is.
Exactly.
So I just walk in without essentially belabeling to describe, is this what I mean? I want you to do it like this.
Because we say that Milele will become a household name. So it will be in every corner. So you don't have to go to South Bay. Don't have to go to Harlingen. You don't have to go to the CBD. You just walk in. Anywhere we have your profile. So this is Simba, he likes, this is his style. And you get the same thing.
You know what, Agnes?
Yeah.
You do that.
Yeah.
Listen,
Yeah.
I'm telling you that.
Yeah.
And that is, you're speaking to every man.
Yeah.
You do that.
Yeah.
I will not go anywhere. That's my biggest challenge as a man.
Yeah.
Like when I move a state or when I go somewhere,
you have to explain.
Oh man, you gotta start afresh. And
Yeah.
you're like, oh my, he's messing. So
Yeah.
you're always,
Yeah, on
alert.
edge. Yeah.
And even when you walk out, you're like, you didn't do it, okay.
Yeah.
You do that,
Yeah.
I'll be on board.
Yeah.
But guess what? Agnes, thank you very much for coming. Any
You're
other person,
welcome.
by the way, who's wondering exactly where they can get Milele, where can they get it?
We're in South Bay.
That's it.
On the second floor of Odyssey Plaza.
That's it.
On Mukoma Road.
That's it.
Yeah.
Now look for them. You see, whatever she's saying here, she's saying, well, for them, what they give you is an experience. And for those who want an experience in modern beauty, guess what? She's saying, well, I've got a solution for every other person. If you're a lady, if you're a man, if you have a family, even children, she's saying, we even have a children's corner. Come, experiences. That's what we do right here on Lookuptv. And if you have any other comment, question that might be directed to Milele, guess what? Talk to us. We're going to write directly to her and tell her exactly what that is. And I know she's spoken to a couple of them, especially my friends who are like, hey, sitaki kunyolewa place ingine. Jua watu juu ya hata vile nataka kunyolewa. Guess what she's saying? In just a couple of years, she'll have a solution for you. Talk about consumer journalism right here on The Morning Brief. Thank you very much for being a part and parcel of this particular session. I'll see you tomorrow for another edition. Goodbye.